welcome to the 396th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony. This is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/jmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. Currently doing a continuing look back at John Byrne's Fantastic Four run from the 80s. I mean, how many issues was he on? I mean, I've done this before, and I've taken breaks, and I've come back, and I've taken breaks, and it keeps going, and they're great. It still holds up, how many years after. And sometimes I do other, like, just random comic topics, movie topics, or whatever, and I am open to suggestions, anything that you would like to hear about outside of this regular podcast. But if you can't commit to a regular monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. And you can also buy the Off My Mind episodes on Patreon. Go to the shop tab, patreon.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy them for the same price of a virtual cup of coffee, unless you're using the iOS app, which charges 30% more. So just go into a browser and open it up. All right. What about this week? This week, one thing I just want to say, so we got Daredevil Born Again. We got another episodes. But it turned out, I totally forgot about this was happening, that 2 episodes dropped. And after I watched the first episode, I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to them. And part of the reason, it was my niece's birthday. We did a little celebration, so that took some time away, and everything. So yeah, that's the price, because I wanted to spend time with the family and with my niece, and she's really cool. So we're only going to do one, or I'm only going to do one Daredevil this week. Next week, probably do 2. Why they randomly dropped 2 episodes, I don't know. It's just kind of weird. So we'll talk about that. To kind of make up for it, just because the way things went, it might not make sense, but we're actually going to have 3 movie features. 2 of them might be a little short. So I end up last weekend, not this past weekend, but the one before, we end up watching Anora. So I thought I would share my thoughts, quick thoughts, not going like full blown into it, since the movie's been out since I think November. But Oscar buzz, everyone's talking about everything. So I was like, okay, it's finally streaming. I think I saw it on Hulu. So I was like, why not just say what I think? Is it as good as everyone says? So you can find out about that. There's also a new movie on Hulu called Odessa, starring Sadie Sink. So it's kind of an interesting. It's weird. It's like an 80s sci-fi post-apocalyptic weird adventure romance movie. So you can hear about that. So that's on that. I don't know if I said it. That's also on Hulu. And then the main movie feature is Death of a Unicorn. So I mentioned last week, I had some options. Actually, I haven't even looked at what the Rotten Tomato score for A Woman in the Yard. I don't know if that's worth seeing. We'll talk more about that. And then we have the season finale of Severance. Oh my goodness. And I actually did something which I don't normally do. So full disclosure, I'm actually kind of doing some parts out of order in order to kind of make sure I have time to, do family time and all that. So I've actually already recorded the Severance part, but then after I actually listened to the Severance podcast with Ben Stiller and Adam Scott, because one of the secretaries at work's like, oh, you should listen to this, and so I did, and it was kind of cool. So I can't share any insight with that, since I already did that part, and I'm kind of glad that I did do my part, my say, before hearing any other secret. I mean, maybe it would have been, it could have enhanced what I talked about it, but then you just get like my insight and not influenced by any true facts. I don't think I was like necessarily wrong or anything about that. So on with the show, with the news, there's oh my goodness, we have like just a ton of Marvel news, or not really Marvel news, but they did some big casting. They did. Apparently, it was like this big live stream, and I don't know how it was, because I was obviously working, and I clicked on a YouTube clip, but because I saw a video, like I saw they were doing clips of it like on Instagram, and then I saw one, which it was kind of like the whole thing, because there's basically all these directors' chairs, like who's like everyone that's going to be in Avengers Doomsday. But I don't know if the live stream was just like super slow, or it is just like a shot of the chair for like a few seconds, like a long time, and then I don't know. So we have Chris Hemsworth, Vanessa Kirby, Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, Letitia Wright, Paul Rudd, and Paul Rudd had a little tiny chair, which was kind of funny. Tenoch Huerta Mejia, I believe that's Namor, right? Iban Mas Bacharach, wait, who's that? Simu Liu, Florence Pugh, Kelsey Grammer, what? Louis Pullman, Danny Ramirez, Joseph Quinn. So Danny Ramirez, isn't that, I think that's Falcon. Joseph Quinn, Human Torch, okay. David Harbour, Winston Duke, Hannah John Kamen, and that's Ghost, right? David Harbour, Tom Hiddleston, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Alan Cumming, Rebecca Romaine, James Marsden, Channing Tatum, Pedro Pascal, and some guy named Robert Downey Jr. So that's crazy. And apparently there's going to be more. That's not everyone. Now you'll notice because some people are missing. I already talked about this before. Like, people are like, "Oh, Chris Pratt's not there," and that's because Chris Pratt is doing Terminal List season 2. And I saw like one thing, Internet Scoop or whatever is talking about, Chris Pratt may still. It's like this is old news. The Russos talked about that that they would like to have him be in it, but he's doing. I think the Russo said that. Someone said it, but he's doing his thing. So if they can swing the timing right, maybe they can get him in there. But obviously they're going to move forward without him because he's got his other commitment, and he's got to do what he's got to do. So that's fine. But then the other thing is like, what about I had a couple of my students were kind of upset because Tom Holland, he's not listed. But one of the things they're saying is the reason he's not in the movie, or possibly in the movie, is because Spider-Man 4 is going to be taking place like at the same time, because I think it comes out like in between Doomsday and Secret Wars. So that's a bummer. But I mean, at the same time, it's like you can't have everyone. I mean, and if you have everyone, it's going to be like little cameos. So we have that. Speaking of Spider-Man 4, there's a rumor that Chameleon might be the bad guy, which is probably better. I'd rather Chameleon than King in Black or whatever they were going to do. But one of I don't remember who said this, but if it was Chameleon, they probably wouldn't call him Chameleon, since Chameleon was basically in Craven, so they kind of want to avoid that or something. So we'll have to see. But we could have more in Doomsday. There's another rumor then with Thunderbolts, since we have all the Thunderbolts, except there's one. I think there's just one person missing, and there's been this like ongoing rumor with Thunderbolts that maybe someone's going to die. One of the Thunderbolts members is going to die. And to add fuel to this, there was a new trailer, which is so cool. I'm so excited for this movie, and which is weird because I really like Bucky, and I really like Yelena. But it's like I'm not overly attached to some of the other characters. They're not like they're not like the Avengers. They're not like, but it's like there's something about this movie, just the energy that it's giving off, and I'm like really excited for this. But now, whether this is a spoiler or not, but there was a scene where I don't know if I should spoil it or not, because I know, and it seems so silly. But there's a scene. If you look it up, death, your Thunderbolts character death or something. I'm sure you can find, people speculating, but there's this character that was in a scene in the Watchtower, and then with the new trailer, it's like it's the same scene, but the character has been removed. So there's like Captain America and Bucky, or Captain U.S. Agent, not Captain America, but there's like two people standing there, and then this other character was behind, and then they're not there. So obviously it's not Bucky or U.S. Agent. So to narrow it down. I don't know, and if that's the case, that's unfortunate that it's spoiled because of this. I don't want to be spoiled by anything. I want to watch it, and if there is a big heroic sacrifice or something like that, I want to be shocked. But then maybe it's this person isn't going to get killed, but maybe they're just going to quit, or who knows. So hopefully, I don't know. There's also a rumor that Chris Evans might be joining Fantastic Four First Steps, like, or have a cameo or something like that. There, obviously, nothing is confirmed. If he's going to be in there, because some people are like, maybe he's going to be a Johnny Storm variant, which we've already seen. I don't see him appearing as Captain America because he's, unless he changes his mind or he's not telling the truth. He's basically said he's like, why I'm kind of done with that. I'm not going to go back to Cap, because he told his story, and obviously you're entitled to change your mind, but I just feel like with the statement that he made, like the definitive statement that he's not going to go back to he's done. He's not that he has anything against it, but he told the story, so he doesn't want to go back, and so I don't know. And then see, this happens every time, and this isn't the first time we've heard this, but there's rumors or speculations that Disney is eyeing Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler for a Marvel role. And why are they talking about that? Maybe because they had a movie. And, it makes sense. It's like, okay, Disney did Snow White. Now, like, hey, maybe we can, we've got a sort of like relationship now. Maybe we can put them in something else. And of course, people are complaining. And that, I guess we should talk about that. With the lack of success of Snow White, it really bothers me, and I don't know why, because I have nothing invested in it, and I don't, it's not. I didn't love the movie. I thought the movie was fine, but there's also like some metrics that came out, and there was like a lot of like young girls. They gave it like a 5 out of 5 or an A plus or some score like that, and that is what I think matters. When the majority of the reviewers are older, not old, but older white dudes or just older people, Snow White might not be the movie for them. So the question is, if you are a movie reviewer and you are reviewing a movie, are you going to go review like who's a little bluey, or let's say they're like a Teletubby movies. I can't think of it. Blue's Clues movie or something. If there's something that is clearly Paw Patrol's, right? Is that still a thing? I'm so out of touch because my daughter's grown up. So if there's like some like pure kids movie or something like that, can these critics say this is a movie that's clearly for kids? They should say that. And if you're removing, I guess the thing is, if you're reviewing it through your eyes, then it may not be for you. So like with the Minecraft movie coming out, I think next week, I'm probably not going to see it because I don't think that movie is for me. It's not for me because, one, I've never been fully invested in Minecraft. I have respect for Minecraft because I've seen how much fun my daughter and her cousins have had, creating their worlds and doing all this stuff. So I think this is cool. But even my daughter's like, I'm not sure. And then the other thing, it's not for me because I'm not a big Jack Black fan. So I don't really have I don't really care to see it. Now, I would see it if there's nothing else, but there's a couple other movies that have come out this week that I might see instead. Because, I want to see them, and I think people might want to hear about them as well. So that's the thing. If I were to review, it would make no sense for me to review or talk about Minecraft when I've never really played. I've just barely done anything with it. So I have nothing, no investment in Minecraft or Jack Black. And Jason Momoa, I'm okay with, so it wouldn't make sense for me to watch a movie because I'm not going to be able to appreciate as much as someone else. And that's what I'm seeing these articles. People are like, Snow White's losing money and blah, this and that. And of course, people are saying that it's woke and all this. Why is it such a bad thing if they change, and again, here's where I'm sounding kind of like a hypocrite. Because I don't think that they should change gender and all stuff like that. But when you have someone like Rachel Zegler, yeah, she's not white, but she can sing. And I don't know. I did not see the casting sheets. Did they say we want to cast a non-white person for Snow White, or did they say we want to do a live action? And they auditioned. They're like, holy crap, this is Rachel Zegler. She can sing. Because sometimes they do that. Sometimes like, yeah, we want to go in this direction. And even if that's the case, then you got to get over it. Boo hoo if this character that you probably don't really care that much about. Oh no, they're not white anymore. Whatever, however will you relate? But they're still a human being. But at the same time, I get it. If you were to like recast, like Spider-Man or Superman as not a white person, I'd be like, that seems kind of weird. but it's not wrong. I mean, I wouldn't like boycott it, say, no, I'm not going to watch it. So it's weird seeing these people like reveling in the fact that Snow White is not a box office smash. It's like, why would you root for something to fail when, money was put in, and some people are like, oh, Disney, who cares, all this stuff. But all those people working on the movie, this is their job, their livelihood. So why would you wish for them to have something that they can't be proud of, or like lose their jobs or anything like that? So if it's not for you, just like Minecraft is not for me, I'm not going to go see it, but I'm not going to sit and complain about it. And it's like I wouldn't go like, I'm going to go watch it so I can say how much I didn't like it, or if it's not successful, I'm not going to be like, see, I told you, that's why I didn't see it. That's just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem productive. And that's what I say, it bothers me when I see these posts like, it's losing money, it's only this, it's not going to break even, and it's like, but if little girls, or not even just little girls and boys, if anyone has the slightest bit of enjoyment for this movie, that's what matters. And it would be great if it could be successful, no one loses anything, but whatever. Okay, move on. Clayface, the movie. Apparently it's getting a new writer. So James Watkins is going to be like reworking the script, or the whatever. So the script is based off of Mike Flanagan's script. So I don't know, the way it sounded like, it's like, oh, new writers. It's like, was the script that bad? And I know they do this all the time. You have a script and then you got to polish it, second draft, third draft. And how many drafts are there? I mean, they go through a lot, and, different things, and things change and whatever. But it almost made it sound like whoa, so we got to really work on this, which is weird because James Gunn already, he says they're not greenlighting any movies until the script is done. So he must have looked at the script and been fine with it. So maybe it was just the article was kind of skewed in a way that made it sound worse. Because I'm sure this is a normal thing. It's nothing like out of the ordinary. What about Blade? So actually, like earlier, like there was one day I saw, Blade, there might be a new director for Blade. And when I first saw that, I was like, I was like, I saw the headline. I was like, I'm not even going to click on this. It doesn't matter. I mean, because it's probably a rumor. There's no facts in it, and I'll believe it when I see it. I think it was someone involved with John Wick, and I don't know if it was like the stunt coordinator who's like amazing, but then I think it was at that same day. I think it was like, what was it, Friday? I think then later they're like, Blade may be kind of put on hold permanently or possibly, but they're like, there's still hope. It's just, it's not moving forward at this time. Who knows what's going to happen. I hope, I don't really care one way or the other if there's a Blade movie. I enjoyed the original Blade movies. And I said this before. I enjoyed the Blade movie so much. I bought the sword. Was it Daywalker? What's the blade called? I bought a replica of the sword because I thought like, this is cool. I'll spend a couple $100 or whatever to have this replica. So I must have liked the movie for that. So it'd be cool to see like a good movie. I don't really care all that much for Blade lately. I just find, he's got this big, huge attitude. But so hopefully something will happen. Oh, wait. So going back to Doomsday. So Namor, I mentioned that. I don't know if I just totally forgot about this or missed this, but there was apparently he's been accused of sexual assault. So a lot of people are like, wait, Namor is going to be in Doomsday? This dude is accused of sexual assault, but Jonathan Majors fired? So, there's like, what about, it's not fair, this or whatever. I don't know what the deal is. And I think the difference is Jonathan Major, his case went to court. This other dude, Namor, he was probably accused of it, but I don't know if it went any further than that. So I don't know if that's the loophole where he's not convicted or not. I don't know. But man, no, don't assault anyone. Don't do anything. Red Sonja. So the Red Sonja movie, it's looking like it might come out later, like this year, 2025. And they're saying it's going to be like rated R. It's going to have an R rating. But what I found weird, because they're like narrowing down a window. It doesn't have a window. They're saying, again, later in 2025. But it just, I don't know what studio. But just releasing a movie, it's like, it seems like it's such like a controlled thing that you can't just be like, yeah, I'm going to release a movie 2 weeks from now. Because, you need to see what else is being released. And then you got to think about, distributing, and are theaters going to want to run it if there's like 8 other movies coming out that weekend? And so I don't know. Will I see a Red Sonja movie? I mean, I don't know anything about it. I'm not even sure. I don't even know if they've cast someone. I'm assuming they have. I've seen like an image, and I can't tell I don't know if I recognize whoever's playing Red Sonja. Would I see it? Possibly. It would just depend on what else is opening that weekend. Because I could try to do 2 movies in one, but it's just that's gonna be hard unless it's like over the summer. But maybe this isn't going to happen. So I wish the Red Sonja movie, again, I'm not overly invested in it, but I would want it to be successful. So I hope it does well. I hope it's going to be really cool. Then the last bit of news, saying possibly after Doomsday and Secret Wars, maybe the Russos are going to do an X-Men movie. Which, if we're getting all these X-Men actors in Doomsday, then maybe they're going to have some say in setting things up, like what's next and so forth. So who knows? That would be cool. My question would be, do the Russos want to do that, commit that much Marvel? And maybe they'll be like, yeah, and Marvel money is good money. But if they're doing, because I'm sure doing Doomsday, especially you've got all these actors. I mean, it's going to be, I don't want to say epic, but it's on a bigger scale than just doing or just a regular movie. Like, no offense to Captain America, Brave New World. But that almost was kind of limited with even though there was different locales and stuff like that, it's not an overly huge cast. But with Doomsday, when you're getting all these people, these actors, all these characters, and who knows what other pieces have to come into play, it just sounds like it's like exhausting. And then they're gonna do Secret Wars, which we don't know necessarily what that means. It's not gonna be like a straight adaptation of the comics. We would hope so. Some of us would, but I'm assuming there's gonna be a lot of people in that too. And then to go from there, then they're going to go to X-Men, where they have to start from the build from the ground up or whatever. So fingers crossed. I mean, I like the Russos, Marvel. I did not see Electric State, and I don't think I ever will. So I hope that they're on fire. I mean, what's my favorite Marvel movie? I've said this many times. People ask me, without a doubt, I say Captain America: Winter Soldier. I don't even want to think and debate, because you can say the other movies, Endgame or whatever. There's some epic moments, Infinity, but I think I just have to go with just the feeling how much I loved a Winter Soldier, and it's just because it was like a little different. It was like like a 70s spy thriller in a way. But that is going to be the news for the week. Let's go on to what's next. So with comic books, at Image, we had G.I. Joe Real American Hero. This was kind of neat in a way, because I was like, whoa, things kind of like jumped a bit. I'm trying to remember what happened last issue, but this issue, we see that Cobra Commander is a prisoner at Daredevil, at Destro's castle in Scotland. So he's keeping him there. Baroness is there. He's flying in like a doctor to see if she could be saved or not, because she got shot because of Cobra's commander's orders or whatever. So basically, Destro's like, if she does not survive, then that's going to be big trouble for you. So we have all that, and then it also looks like they're kind of rebuilding the pit, G.I. Joe, their base of operations. So that's cool. I don't know. I'm not really familiar. Like, when was the last time they were there? What does that mean? So I always wonder, it's like, how many people know about the pit? Because it can't be like, there's so many people, especially if they're doing all this stuff like constructing and rebuilding. It's you can't really keep that a secret. But then there was there was Department of Truth 29. I'm behind. I need to get caught up on that. There was also Falling in Love on a Path to Hell, number 7. I thought this was only like a 6-issue miniseries, or like 5 issues or 4 issues. So when I fell behind, and I was like, well, there's only like a couple more issues, and so maybe I'll just get caught up later. But nope, it's still going. So I'm happy for that. Then let's see, Monstrous. I'm so far behind. Radiant Black. I kind of skimmed through Universal Monsters: The Mummy. And it seemed interesting. I mean, the reason I didn't read it, 1, because of time, and 2, I'm not overly into the Mummy, but I am curious. So I may go back and actually fully read it. But skimming through it, it felt like true to like some of the classic Mummy movies. So I think it's off to a good start. And then what was it? You'll Do Bad Things. This is This is an interesting story. So this is a tiny onion. So this is through James Tynan's like banner production company. He's not writing it. I forget who's doing it. I don't have it in front of me, but we have this. It's interesting because we see like some bad things happening, but there's this guy. He's trying to write his next novel, and he's kind of struggling because I think he did like a horror story, but he wants to do like a non-horror story. But every time he starts writing, then things kind of start going in a dark direction, and he's like, I don't want to do that. So then he kind of has to scrap things and whatever. His like editor is like, hey, I need to see some pages, type of thing, and everything. But then, there's I don't know if it's like a spoiler twist, but yes, I maybe shouldn't mention it. But then something happens. It's like, wait, what does this mean in terms of like what he's writing and like what's going on? So there could be like something to that, like what is happening here. So I recommend that. You should check that out. Oh, I just realized Standstill number 8 came out. I totally missed that, so I didn't read that either. Ugh. So I need to check that out. Wait, I should mention there was We're Taking Everyone Down With Us. This came out. I didn't read. I think this came out. Was it this week? Yeah, I didn't read this issue. I have this issue in front of me. And it's written by Matthew Rosenberg. Stefano Landini does the art. I don't remember what this is about, but when I saw the first like couple pages, I was like, oh, I kind of like the colors and the tone with that. Yeah, I'm not sure what this is about. Okay, so double size first issue. I'm not a fan of the double size issues, but I get it because there's more issues, so it's cool and everything like that. After her mad scientist father is killed by the world's greatest spy, 13-year-old Annalise is left alone in the world, sort of. Her dead dad's robot bodyguard is following her around for some reason. Now Annalise has a choice: try to lead a normal life for the first time ever, or seek revenge and maybe overthrow the world order in the process. Image Comic, and it's weird. It's like Image Comic proudly presents, but proudly is like has a strike through in it. So Image Comics presents a journey of regret and retribution, super spies, and pseudoscience growing up in global domination from the brilliant artist Stefano Landini, Prodigy and Hellblazer, and and OK writer Matthew Rosenberg. That's pretty funny. Now, as far no, I don't know if this is a spoiler secret, but often the synopses are written by the writers. They're supposed to write these. Sometimes it's just editorial or whatever, but I don't know. So I think that's funny. So yeah, something made me pick up the issue, and I don't know if it was just because it's number 1 or it's just the opening pages. It's a 6-issue series, so I'm really curious about that. So I'm bummed I didn't read that, but hopefully I'll remember to mention it next week. At Marvel, we had. And there's some Dynamite stuff. I think like Terminator came out. I'm behind on that, and I think there's something else. But at Marvel, we had Amazing Spider-Man issue 70. This is an 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. This is also the final issue of Amazing Spider-Man because it's going to relaunch with number 1 next issue. So you can see we got Jugger Spider Knot on the cover. So because of I always forget how you say the Sideric, whatever the diamond thing is, and with the demon do whatever in charge and blah blah blah, and Spider-Man doing all this stuff. So Spider-Man gets like an enhancement, and they're trying to fight the bad guys and everything, and all this stuff gets wrapped up, and the story arc is over. I don't even remember like what exactly was there any. Nothing majorly shocking at the end, but yeah. So yeah, it's over. That's all I want to say. And yes, Spider-Man is a hero, but yeah. Daredevil 19. There's gonna be a death here. This is after the 19 issues. The story arc is finally over. So the demon stuff's gonna be over, but then yeah, the whatever demons. So here's the dilemma. At one point, because the thing is like trying to really test Daredevil, and so then it basically this big huge demon form thing has Foggy Nelson in one hand like dangling off the top of a building, and Bullseye in the other hand. So he's like, "You Daredevil, you need to choose who lives and who dies." But Daredevil's like, I don't want to make that choice. And Foggy's like, no, don't listen to him. Don't. But it's like, wait, Foggy, you're saying don't save me. And two, he's like, I don't want you. Basically, it's kind of like, I don't want you to save me at the cost of someone else's life. But this is friggin' Bullseye. Bullseye, utter scumbag piece of crap. And Bullseye's like, screw this. He's like, screw you, Daredevil's like, I'm only here because of you. So, and then like, what does this mean? What's there? I mean, you can imagine. Okay, Daredevil doesn't want to make a choice, even though he gets a little hardcore sometime. But something's got to happen. So is he gonna try to do the heroic thing? Will he save Bullseye and Foggy dies? Will he save Foggy and then let Bullseye die? Will he try to save both of them? Can he save both of them? Can he save neither of them? But the story arc's over. So then next issue, he's wearing his armor and the other stuff. I won't spoil it. The other thing, Doom Academy #2. This is okay. I don't need this comic. Like if this wasn't published, I wouldn't be missing anything. But it is a fun book. We have some of the Strange Academy characters here, but they're at a new school because Dr. Doom. I think they're in Latveria. So there's a fun aspect to it, and I'm surprised that because I don't really care about some of the characters, but I'm curious to see where this is going. So it's kind of fun. Doom's Division #1. I was like, what the heck is this? Yeah, this is I forget the team's name, but I don't know anything about them. I don't know any of these characters, and so this I was like, okay, I'm going to check this out, and I regret it, but it's for the podcast. But the only reason I regret it is because it's not that it's bad or anything. I just don't know who these characters are. And they're in some other team. I can't even remember what their name is, and I don't want to sit here and pause or look in because it's going to interrupt the flow and all that. To me, it felt like okay, so it's cool that these characters may be potentially getting seen by new readers, because if people are like, oh, it's another One World Under Doom, I got to read everything, and then they're like, oh, who's this team? And hopefully they'd be like, oh, these characters are cool or whatever. It almost feels like they just slapped the Doom name on there and then trying to get people to read it. So I don't know. Deadpool versus Wolverine slash 'em up. It's like, come on, man. How many Deadpool? I can't even keep track. Is this like the third Deadpool versus Wolverine series or something like that? Because we have all these different ones, and it's like the movie came out how long ago? Like how many months ago? And you're still trying to get people. I mean, whatever. I don't know. It just. I wasn't super crazy about it. Fantastic Four 30. This is continuing off of One World Under Doom or whatever last week. You can see on the cover, Dr. Doom has de-thinged Ben Grimm. He lost his rocks, and now he's human. So here's the thing. Spoiler, there's one point Ben is really struggling with the fact that he doesn't have powers anymore, and he's like, I don't know what if I can live like this anymore, and all this stuff. And it's like I can't protect my wife, and what am I supposed to do if I can't do that? But it's like, oh, welcome to the rest of the world. I mean, all these civilians who are trying to live their lives while Fantastic Four is making enemies with, poking fun at villains and just fighting them, and let's try to save the people, let alone, who don't worry about collateral damage or whatever. Or we're gonna have our headquarters in the middle of New York City and hope that no one attacks anyone around there, and that these villains coming after us not going to cause a traffic jam, and someone's going to miss the birth of their child because they can't get to the hospital in time. But he's just like, I can't do anything. It's like, dude. What I was thinking he doesn't do, it's like, why don't you get that Thing costume that Ms. Thing wore in the Mike Allred, I forget who was, Matt Fraction, Future Foundation? There's got it, whether if she still has it, or if it's in, where is she at? New Orleans last time, wherever she's at. I'm sure Reed can make a new one or do something. He's just so sad. And then, there's Godzilla versus Fantastic Four. The weird thing about this, besides the fact that it was Fantastic Four versus Godzilla, is this is also written by Ryan North, and there's parts where it felt like it was written by someone else. Because Sue uses her powers in a new way here. So it's weird that you're going to debut this kind of new idea in this Godzilla versus Fantastic Four, which, I'm sure is not canon. But you never tried using this, maybe because it just doesn't make sense. I don't know. My problem with this is sometimes the art, I would not want to try to draw a Godzilla. I sort of did. I did one little, but it was like a totally cheap, like mostly just like his head popping out of water or whatever. I would not want to draw a Godzilla comic where you got panel after panel, page after page of Godzilla. But sometimes it just, so I can't do it. I'm going to straight up say that. There's no way I could ever do anything close. It would take me like a million years. So me, Mr. Critic, whatever, not really. But there's sometimes I didn't really like the way Godzilla looked. It felt off, and it kind of pulled me out. Maybe it's kind of silly, but I don't know. The comic is silly. It's a silly idea, but I still read it, obviously. I'm not reading Incredible Hulk. No. Infinity Watch. No. I don't think I read the second issue. I started reading this. I'm like, what the heck is going on? It's like alternate reality. It's like things are all weird. I had no clue what was happening. Laura Kinney Wolverine. So Wolverine and Bucky are having to go on a road trip, and they're going on a mission. So cool, right? They stop off this gas station finally, and it was silly because there's some, local rednecks or whatever. They're complaining about mutants, and when they're talking about it, it's like, oh, are you a mutie lover because of this or whatever? And then someone else is like, oh, they must be mutie lovers. And it's like so quick that it's like, oh, are you a mutant? It's like just because someone has any sort of skill, it doesn't mean they're a mutant or whatever. But it's just they're so quick to just throwing that around. And like I'm trying to remember if they accused Bucky of being a mutant or a mutie lover, and it's just. But I'm sure there's some people that are like that narrow-minded, which is just like really unfortunate. Pool Illuminati. I started flipping through this because it's Todd Knock, and that was just like too much. It's like I like Deadpool, but man, it just sometimes it's just too much. It's like no, I don't. No, just no. That's all I'm going to say about that. Red Hulk issue 2. This is it's kind of fun book. It's not the most fun-hearted book though. So General Thunderbolt Ross was kidnapped by Doctor Doom, and he's been in this prison, and he doesn't know how long. He doesn't know if it's months or years. When was the last time we saw him? So he's being held prisoner, and then he finds out that there's like other prisoners there too. And can they break out and stuff like that? And can he? He has an inhibitor collar, but out you see on the cover he's Red Hulk. But if he turns into Red Hulk, how long can he do it? Because I think he needs to build like the radiation energy and stuff like that. But it's just kind of cool. We got Machine Man and Deathlock, so there's some fun stuff there. Not reading Rogue Savage Land. Then there was Thunderbolts, which was kind of weird because then we have Bucky here, even though Bucky's with Wolverine, Laura Kinney, and this is why I don't like Doctor Doom, because when Bucky was going up against Doctor Doom, then Doctor Doom drops some nukes on Indiana, and then he blames Bucky, and like everyone believes it. But I guess that's what some politicians do. They'll do something and say blame someone, and people will believe it because that's just how it goes. Ultimate Spider-Man 15. I love this comic. I don't like how the Sinister Six basically kidnapped Spider-Man, and now they're kind of like on the run. And it's just the fact that they all know his identity now. It's like, how do you come back from that? It's like, will we ever? They just hang out in New York, even though these villains know his secret identity? There's got to be some fix for that. But that's good. Ultimate Wolverine, I'm not really caring for this. I start reading it, and then it gets to a point, and I hate to say this, but then I just like start skimming through the pages because I'm just like, I don't want to read it. X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, number 12, Time to pay to Vig. This was this is kind of focusing on Gambit and some past. There's a price that he has to pay. He owes someone something. So we see like a glimpse into his past and like why this is and everything. My problem with this is like, man, there's been no single mention to this because he owes someone a price and like he's been paying. I'm assuming like all this time we've just never known it, and so he's basically like, okay, this is it, I'm done. But is he? Well, can he just end it like that? Weapon X-Men #2, I'm not reading that because I feel like that's just going to be too much. Wolverine Revenge #5. I think this is the final issue. It felt like it could be. It's good. It's with this last issue, I mean, it's not like the best issue in the series, but there is some closure, and it does put things to rest. And I don't want to give away, like, was it a happy ending? Was it an okay ending? Was it mediocre? Was it sad ending? Was it dreary? You'll have to read to find out. But man, Greg Capullo, it's so nice to see his art. And this was Jonathan Hickman. Did some cool things here. X-Men Hunt Omega. Ugh. There was. I don't know what's going on here. So like Cyclops is like, we got to stop Professor X. He's so obsessed with this, and other people are like, he's gone. Just let him go because he's almost made his escape, not fully. And he's like, no, we can't let him go. He's just like everything like that. And then he's just like, spoiler. There's one part where he's just like, he like starts losing control and his Ollie's beam. So Wolverine comes up to him, sticks him with his claws. It's like, dude, you can't do that. There's no Krakoan rebirth, whatever. So I guess but then you see he didn't he stabbed him coming off to the side. But then a couple pages later, Cyclops is back under control, and Wolverine's like, sorry, I had to stick you. It's like, no, you didn't just stick him. You straight up 3 claws stabbed him and like popped out of his back. And then he's like healed, like not even like pretending like there's bandages around him or anything. Then there was Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man #4. I should read those because I missed the show. It feels like it's been a while, even though it hasn't been. At DC, I didn't read everything, obviously. There's Absolute Wonder Woman. I forget what issue this was. 5, 6. This was interesting. Basically, Wonder Woman is talking to Hades, and just we get some like, whoa, where does this come from? There's like some like origin about like different stuff that she's using in that. It was fine. I'm enjoying the series. I like seeing this version of Wonder Woman. To find out more about her. But then we had Absolute Martian Manhunter. I'm getting a little concerned with all these Absolute books because we had. So now we have Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. We had Flash. Now we got Martian Manhunter. So that's 5. And then there's going to be Absolute. I just draw a blank. Green Lantern, and I'm sure there's something else too. So they're doing. There's just too much. Who has time to read all these or buy all these? Now I feel like DC already has more Absolute books than Marvel has Ultimate books, and Marvel's been doing Ultimate books longer than DC's been doing the Absolute books. So I mean, are we going to get like Absolute every single character? It's like we don't need that. If you want to tell good stories, put the awesome creative team on the actual books. But then it's like, oh no, but we want to change things. We want to take risks. And so I don't know. Absolute Martian Manhunter. It's definitely interesting. It's Denise Camp, I think. Javier Rodriguez's art is what makes it kind of trippy in a way. Like the art and the colors that we see here. And, I really don't know what to make out of this. It's like, okay, what's the message from Absolute Martian Manhunter? He's kind of a jerk, and I would more intense. He's kind of an a-hole, and it's like seems like it's very trippy, but it almost feels like it's trippy just to be trippy. It's like, is it just purposely trying to be confusing just for the fun of it? And I don't know. Batman 158. This is a Hush book. The first part of Hush 2. Jim Lee's art is great. I didn't love the story so far. It's just part 1. So, you could say, well, it's just part 1. Give it some time. But the fact is part 1 should grab you from the get-go. And this is just, it was just kind of weird in a bit, because it's like Batman's, Joker's doing a scheme, but it's like it's something he's already done, and they talk about that, and Joker's never repeats a scheme, but then like things kind of go a little off kilter or whatever, and Joker ends up getting kidnapped. It's like, who's kidnapping him? What's going on? And then they're doing like all this horrible stuff to him, and it's like, well, you're about to die. And I'm going to say this: it's not clear if he's dead at the end, because it's like, what are you trying to say? It was almost a little confusing, like what's happening. And then Batman's like, I know who did this, because there's only one person that could. It's just like only one person in the entire DC universe. Whatever. Justice League Unlimited number 5. This was fun. It's almost too much, but it makes sense that we got this mission. Let's, like, who's available? I need backup. Who's around? And so you got this big cohesive, whoever is needed will come out. Cool, awesome. But it's almost like too many people, and it's leading towards like, who is the villain and what does this mean? And I don't want to say anything more than that. So definitely some big revelations as to like what's going on. It's like, wait, what? Superman 24. There's some hints of wait, who is going to be the villain here? There's some dark things coming on Superman's doorstep, and I don't want to spoil anything more of that. Then there's Wonder Woman 19. This was okay. We still see Wonder Woman going up against that dude in the White House, this guy who calls himself like the King of America or whatever. But then there's also the fact that the story is being told to Wonder Woman's daughter. And my concern is, wait, what does this story mean? Because if we're talking Wonder Woman's daughter, we're talking a little bit in the future. She grows up a little bit. But there's some like permanent things that are being hinted at, which I'm sure can't be the case. So I don't know. It was just an okay issue for me. I mean, I've been enjoying the last few issues, but yeah, I don't know. Then we got Green Lantern 21. There's just like so many characters, and I was like, I'm not really sure what's going on. And we got that, I think, what his name is, Sorrow, the emo dude. Carol Ferris is like ex-fiance who she left for Hal, and yeah, I don't know. And then that's all I read, because there's the Black Canary Best of the Best came out. I do want to read that. Batman Long Halloween. I don't think I read the last issue. I'm curious, but it didn't. Flash 19, Eclipso, blah. Green Arrow, I'm pretty sure I read the last issue. I'm curious about that, so I need to get caught up with that. We had a Metamorpho, Power Girl, Harley Quinn, Peacemaker Presents Vigilante, and Harley Quinn Fartacular, silent but something. I didn't read any of those. That is going to be comics for the week. All right, here we go. Severance, Season 2, Episode 10, Cold Harbor. This is a Season 2 finale. And what was my reaction this year? My reaction watching toward the end, I was like, oh, fudge. Man, it was crazy. And now we're left, and now it's coming back. As I'm having like flashbacks. It's like it's over. It's done. Now we have to wait. How long until Season 3? Hopefully not. I don't think there's any even hints of it. But there was a bit of a gap between Season 1 and 2. And that was because of the actor strike and the writer strike. And so Cold Harbor. Oh, jeez. This episode, it's a slightly longer episode. I think it was like close to an hour and 20 minutes. Maybe it was less, I think. And they go, there's like crazy stuff that happens, and just the visuals and man, there's some callbacks to like early stuff in Season 1, and we get some questions answered, but of course, we're still left with a lot. And then like some things, like they're not going to do this just yet, but then they do stuff. So it's like, where is this going to go? I don't know. Let's just get to it, because I feel like there's just so much to talk about in this episode. It starts off, so at the birthing room, and this is crazy. So Devin is like, do you remember the last thing you said to me? and Mark, any Mark's like, she's alive. And then Cobell's, she's there. She's like, have you finished Cold Harbor? And Mark's like, Mark asks, he's like, what is this place? And Devin's like, it's a cabin for giving birth. And he's like, why am I here? And Cobell, he's like, why are you here? And Cobell's like, Cold Harbor, have you finished it? And he's like, no. And she like kind of sighs in relief. And she's like, then she's still alive. We can save her. And Innie Mark's like, who? And she's like, Miss Casey. And Devin's like, Gemma. Cobell's like, there's a hallway down there. It's different than the others. It's along the black and hidden. And Mark kind of says something. He jumps in. That it's like Blackwater, and he's like from Irving's drawings. And Cobell's like, what? And he's like, with an elevator going down. He's like, we know where it is. So then it cuts back to Helly and Helena's father. So he's standing in the doorway with the office that's not really used. And he's like, what a funny speech you gave at the party. And she kind of grabs a pen in her hand. It's like, is she going to use like a weapon? Because if this is Helly, and it is, right? She doesn't know who this guy is. So this dude all of a sudden comes up. So she's got this pen in her hand. And Egan, he's like, I was cross with you after I threw a tin of candies. And she whispers, she's like, God, you're fudging weird. And he starts walking into the room. I do not love my daughter, which is really sad. He's like, I used to see Kier in her, but he left her as she grew. And Hallie's like, you sound like a great dad. And this is like an interesting part because he's like, I sired others in the shadows, but he wasn't in them either. So when they went to the birthing cabin, Cobell said that this is one of Egan's or something like that. So kind of like insinuating that this is what happened, right? That Devin would be one for Egan, which I don't even want to go down that route. That's just kind of gross. So he says that he sired others, but he wasn't in them until I saw him again in you. So he's talking about Helly. So she gets up and like moves towards him. And she's like, you and your family created hell and you're going to burn in it. And then the sort of pin is gripped in her hand, kind of like behind her. And then he's like, there he is. Tomorrow is a special day. And he turns and he starts like walking out. And she's like, hey, she's like, why did you come here? What did you want from me? But he like doesn't answer. And then Mark, he's like, wait, when I finish Cold Harbor, they do a test and then they'll kill her? And Cobell's like, once the file is done, you'll need to quickly get to the black hallway, then down to the testing floor. They'll not let you leave MDR till that file is complete. And Mark's like, okay, but how do I find her once I'm down there? And Devin's like, you won't. He's like, I won't? And Cobell's like, no, your chip is attuned to your floor. Once you get down to testing, you'll be your Audi again. And Devin's like, and then he'll find Gemma and take her to the severed floor. And Cobell's like, where you will guide her to the exit stairwell. And he's like, right, okay. And then Devin's like, Mark, I know this is a fudging lot, man, but if we can prove that she is alive, if we can prove that they fudging kidnapped her, it will end them. And Mark S, he's like, well, what happens to us? And Devin's like, what do you mean? Mark's like, well, if Lumen ends, then what happens to every innie on the severed floor? And Devin's like, yeah, and she turns to Cobell. And Mark's like, oh, you want me to give my life? And Devin's like, no. He's like, the lives of everyone down there? And Devin's like, no, it's not that simple. And he's like, just to save one person you happen to care about? And Cobell's like, it doesn't have to end your life. And he's like, really? And Devin's like, right. There's somebody else who wants to talk to you, actually. And then she pulls out a camcorder. And she's like, just hit play. So she goes, opens the door and stands by it. And Cobell's like, watch it. Record your response and step outside. And Devin's like, we'll be downstairs, okay? He's like, okay. So he plays it, and Audi Mark's on the video. He's like, hey, well, I guess you know who I am. I think you've spoken with Devin and Mrs. Sell, or Miss Cobell. So you know what it is we're asking. But the first thing I need to say to you is that I am so sorry. You know, I created you as a prisoner and as an escape. Lumen told me that you'd be happy, that innies are content, And because I took their word for it, you've been living a nightmare for 2 years. It's horrific what they've done to you. And part of the reason I'm here is to make it right. And I hope not now, with all that we have in common, that you'll give me that chance. The message ends. And Any Mark just sits. He's like looking at the fireplace. He looks at the camcorder. He turns he turns it to himself and he hits record. Then Outie Mark finds himself outside on a balcony with the camcorder. He hits play and he watches Any Mark's message. Hi, wow, this is, I never expected to actually speak to you. And he's like, holy spit. He's like, let alone get an apology. So thank you. Nightmare is a wrong word, actually, because we find ways to make it work, to feel whole, which is why what you're asking scares me, because whatever this life is, it's all we have, and we don't want it to end. Can you understand that? And the message ends. So then Outie Mark sits and he records another message. He's like, of course I can. So this is Outie Mark. He's like, it's such a good point. I'd probably say the same thing in your position. However, Lumen doesn't have to be your whole life. And it switches to like Any Mark watching the rest of the message. So he's like, so this is still Outie Mark's message. Now, you may have been seeing flashes lately, images from my world out here. I've been seeing yours too. It's a process called reintegration. It's a way to recouple memories so we can be one person. I started this because I see now how unfair all this is to you. And once my wife is free, I swear I will finish the process, because this life, our life, belongs to both of us. And I want to share it with you. So Any Mark responds, he's like, okay, but what would that mean exactly? That you get the right side and I get the left? Or is it like a top-bottom situation? He's like, and an Outie Mark's like, no, it wouldn't be like a top-bottom situation. It's like both of us, like one person combined, like my memories and yours, my trauma and yours, but the good stuff too. And then Any's like, okay, but I mean, you've been alive for what, 20 times longer? So whoever this new hybrid person is, it seems like he'd be way more you than me. I just don't think that's how it works, okay? How does it work? Outie Mark sits on a balcony, he thinks, and he starts recording. He's like, look, I mourned Gemma for 2 years. I lost my job, my teaching job, because I started showing up drunk, I hid all her stuff in my basement because it was easier to pretend she never existed. And I thought I was protecting you from that pain. Like, oh, hey, Miss Cobell told me that you like someone down there, Helena Egan, right? I think her Any name is Helene. Honestly, I love that you had that experience. So now you can imagine like what you and Helene have, but multiply that like thousands of days of like joys and arguments and passion. And then you can see why I have to get my wife back. I have to have her back. And he's like, it's Helly, actually, Helly. It's a person I'm in love with, which you'd know if you'd ever taken an interest in my life before tonight. When you need something, she's the person I'll lose if I do what you say, because you know as well as I do, her Outie won't like reintegrate, assuming that's even real, assuming every word out of your mouth isn't a lie. So things are starting to turn. And he's like, I don't know if I believe this. So then Outie to himself, when he's watching, he's like, what? And then he records, he's like, whoa, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. He's like, dude, I'm just trying to save my wife, okay? I mean, I can't abandon her, and if you help me, I won't abandon you, I promise. And then he's like, you know what I think? I think the second you get your wife back, you forget I ever existed. I think that I disappear along with every Any down there. And then Outie's like, what do you want from me? We're in this together. Can't you just trust me? And he's like, no. So then Mark's like, Devin. So Devin and Cobell come in. He's like, he's a fudging child. He won't listen. Cobell's like, let me speak to him. And Mark's like, I mentioned reintegration. He basically called BS. Devin's like, well, he's not wrong, right? Cobell's like, let me speak to him alone. And she's looking at Devin. And Devin's like, okay, yeah. And Mark's like, okay. So Any steps in, finds himself looking at Cobell. So she gets right to it. The numbers are your wife. And Mark S. is confused. She's like, the MDR numbers from your console. They both sit down by the fire. There's a doorway into the mind of your Outie's wife, Gemma Scout. And he's like, I don't understand. And she's like, what do you see every day when you look at them? And we see like a flashback, like the numbers on the screen. And he's like, what? We feel things. She's like, what do you feel? He's like, different thing. Sometimes sadness. And we see like Lumen Egan puppets. And Cobell is like finished. She's like, whoa, frolic, malice, dread. And Mark's like, so you're saying the clusters are her tempers, the building blocks of her mind. And he's like, what am I building? Every file you've completed is a new consciousness for her, a new innie. And he's like, I've completed 24 files. Cold Harbor is the last. Tomorrow will be your final day at Lumen. You will have served your purpose, and so will she. So, like, what does that mean? Is he going to get fired? Not be allowed to come back anymore? Or are they going to, like, kill him? And he's like, wait, why are you telling me this? What are you doing here, really? Mark, there'll be no honeymoon ending for you and Helly. She's an Egan. You're nothing to them. And he's like, no. And he like shakes his head. Nothing to her. He's like, no, I don't believe you. They're using you. He's like, no, I don't believe you. Then they'll discard you like a skin husk. He's like, I think you're using me. Mark, reintegration is your only chance. And then Devin's like, Mark? And then Innie's like, do you love your brother? And Devin's like, yes. Well, then, you tell him that the next thing I see had better be the severed floor, or I swear he will never see his wife again. And then Cobell's like, I care for you. And he's like, stop. And Devin's like, Mark? And he like steps through the doorway, and then he severs, but then he finds himself in the elevator at Lumen. So the elevator opens. There's a new painting. It's like a crazy, huge painting. Mark's in the center with like his arms up, like he's about to capture the final number. The coworkers are beside him on either side. There's like icy mountains with like 9 shadowy people at the top. Mark like looks at it, like kind of steps forward. The shadow forms, I think, are like the Egans, like Helena's in the center. Rickon and Devin are included in there, and then the elevator behind him opens, and Helly comes out. She sees him. She goes to him. They like embrace, and then she like notices the painting. And he whispers, she's like, I have to tell you something. And she's like, me too. So they go to like this unlit hallway part where, the light turns on as they pass and immediately turns off. Then they find a statue. It's like this bearded dude. It's Kier. It's like one of those animatronic things. And she's like, fudge me. And he's holding an envelope. Mark takes it. It's labeled Mark S. So he opens it and he reads it. There's a note. Mark, the founder wished to witness the historic completion of your 25th file. Helly R. shall also bear witness from her chair. Goodly splendors await upon your victory. Love, love, Mr. Milchick. He like opens a card, and there's a sort of like a pop-up like waffle on a plate with like fork and knife on each side. So it's still dark in the room, but then their desk area kind of dimly lit up. So Mark goes over, turns on his desk lamp. The screen shows kind of like the Rolodex files with all the different like files scrolling. So Helly sits at her desk and just like looks around, and she whispers, James Egan was here. He came to see me. He said some cryptic poop about the fire of Kier being in me, and that today is a special day. And Mark's like, I know why. And he kind of glances around. He's like, I know why they're doing this. So we see Milchick walking down the hall. He hits a fob and the lights go on. Elevator dings and opens. Dylan G is inside, and he's like really surprised. And with a smile, Milchick's like, hello, Dylan. And Dylan's like, he said no. But Milchick's like, follow me. So Dylan, he sees a giant painting, he kind of looks at it, then he like follows Milchick. And then we finally see the name of the painting, like off to the side, The Exalted Victory of Cold Harbor. Down below, Gemma goes to her outfit closet where there's like, her outfits picked out for her. There's a jacket and a scarf in there. It's what she wore the last time she saw Mark, when she left him, when she left to go out to the party or whatever. And I think she's pretty sure she recognized it. She's like looking at it. So then Helly's like, so what happens when they extract the chip? And Mark says nothing. Because it's like, what does that mean? And then she's like, but how can we trust anything Cobell says? All she's ever done is lie. And Mark's like, I know, but she seemed different. I mean, she's the same, but like different same. I don't know. So his finger kind of moves over the rollerball controller thing. The cursor floats over the numbers. He's like, I mean, I could just not do it. I could just not finish the file, not get her out. But then Hallie's like, but if she's telling the truth, we're screwed either way. Gemma's staring at the coat, and then she's like, what's happening? The nurse is there. She's like, just get dressed. Everything's going to be fine. Gemma takes the outfit down. Hallie's like, if you get her out, maybe that will take down Lumen like his sister said. And maybe you can do this combining things. And Mark's like, well, yeah, but he could be a total liar. And Hallie's like, what if he's not? At least you'll have a chance at living. And then he's like, yeah, but I want to live with you. And she kind of like smiles. And then she's like, but I'm her, Mark. And he like looks at her. She's like, I'm her. And he shakes his head. Then he turns back to the screen. He's like, okay. And like a tear falls on his cheek. So he starts working on the numbers. He collects like a couple batches, 97%. In the watcher room, Drummond and that computer guy are watching. There's another batch, and it's like 98%. Milchek puts down this black envelope by Dylan. He's like, your Audi has responded to your resignation request, as it may yield an embarrassing emotional response in you, and as I am duly swamped, I shall leave you to read it in solitude. And this part was kind of weird. He slides the envelope to Dylan. So they're in I don't think they're in the break room, but they're sitting somewhere else. So he slides the envelope to Dylan, and then he runs out of the room. It's like, is it going to explode or something? So Dylan opens it, reads, and you can see like Dylan's handwriting. It's like, Dear Innie, I've read your request and organized my response into 3 points. Point 1, and it's like underlined, fudge you. Gretchen is my wife and my beloved, and your actions with her were deeply fudging indecorous. This is like, what's with these words? And we see like a flashback where he's filling out the form at home while his wife is playing in the or the kids are playing in the living room, and his wife's like doing something. So then, point 2, I get it. She's perfect. And given our shared physiology, it tracks that you'd agree. But here's the thing. I've never been an impressive person. So when Gretch told me that you're like this self-assured badass, I don't know, it stung. So I guess point 3 is, I hope someday she sees in me what she sees in you. In the meantime, if I'm being totally honest, I guess I like knowing you're there. So if you want to leave, you can. But I think you should stay. Sincerest regards, your Audi. And he takes off his glasses and he just sits there and kind of like takes it in. So Milchek's like quickly like walking down the hall, takes off his tie, unbuttons like the top of his button, and then he starts like jogging. Meanwhile, the file, 99% complete. He's scrolling through the numbers. Hallie's like, been trying to think of another place names besides Delaware. She's like, I've got Europe, because Delaware is what she said, I think, in her incoming interview. I've got Europe, Zimbabwe, and the equator. Without looking at her, but like a smirk, he's like, the equator? He's like, is that a building? And she's like, or a continent? And he's like, maybe it's just a building that's like so big. And then she's like, that it becomes a continent? And she's like smiling too. He's like, yeah. Then he gets serious and he looks at Hallie and he like turns back. He's like, I wish we had more time. It's like scroll. We see a batch. He opens the box. He looks at Hallie. She pulls out the directions to the elevator. She gets up and looks at the screen, like gets closely like to him. She slides the directions like to him, so like in case they're being watched and no one sees it. She's like, and she looks at the screen. She's like, at least it's a happy one. And she kind of like takes his hand. He rolls the controller. The numbers hover. Pushes the button. The bottom thing opens, and then the enters. And there's like kind of like a flicker of Gemma's eyes. 100%. In the watcher room, Drummond's like, call Mr. Egan. So he leaves, and the dude picks up the phone. Mark's screen goes dark, and then the lights shut off. And then there's like some green vertical lights like on the wall. And then Sirius by the Alan Parsons Project comes on. So the song, this is what they use. I know they use it for the Chicago Bulls, like when they would be announced coming out. And I'm sure it's used at like other sporting events. So you if you heard it, you know what I'm talking about. So Sirius by Alan Parsons Project, you'll know what it is. Then there's like a spotlight that shines on the animatronic dude, and he starts speaking. Mark S. And he kind of moves a little bit. And I'm moving like my arms like a robot now. In completing your 25th macro data file, you have drawn my grand agendum nearer to fulfillment, thus making you one of the most important people in history. Revel now
in the fruit of your labors, and hail your earthbound steward, your very own floor manager.
The spotlight shifts to the side. The music kind of cuts. A milkshake comes out, kind of like talk show host style. He kind of does like some arm pumping, and there's like, wait, is that like fake applause? He runs over to an animatronic, and he's like holding note cards. He's like, "Thank you, Kier, and may I say, you're looking very handsome, sir."
Thank you. I'd say the same to you, if not for my favorite core principle.
So milkshake kind of looks down at the cards.
Probity, vision.
There's fake applause and laughter. Milkshake's like, "Well, it's truly special to host a man so illustrious, so sapient, so magnanimous."
My, you're verbose. Good thing you didn't have to write the first appendix. It would have burst.
Laughter. Milkshake just kind of stares at animatronic Kier. So he didn't like that. And again, why are they so against him using big words when they use big words all the time? So he's just like looking like he is not happy. He slowly turns and looks at Mark and Helly, and he's like, they notice his reaction. Then he continues. "It's an honor to receive your barbs, Mr. Egan. The legacy you've left behind is truly and irrefutably larger than life."
He's like, "You mean my company?"
"No, I mean this wax statue that's 5 inches taller than you actually were."
Ouch.
There's kind of like murmuring, whatever, awkward silence. And Milkshake turns and then smiles at Mark and Helly. And finally the statue answers.
Thank you for that feedback, Seth.
And he's like, "Thank you, Kier. And now, lady and gentleman of MDR, may I introduce choreography and merriment." Music starts. Milkshake like kind of wheels Kier out. He like kind of leans the back, wheels him out. Dylan can like hear the music too, and it's like there's like a marching band. Is that a marching band drumming? What is going on? Gemma, meanwhile, gets dressed. The nurse is like, "Let's go." The band, actual marching band, comes in like from like both sides of a room, MDR room. Milkshake meets him in the center. He's now wearing like a powder blue suit jacket. The drumming crescendos, and then they all yell, "Mark!" And then they start playing music. I actually took out my Shazam. Turn my phone, use the Shazam app, and it's the Kier anthem was playing. So Mark and Helly are almost getting like, they're like standing up. They're kind of getting like kind of corralled and shoved around because there's this marching band like moving around. And then they, at one point, they kind of spin the desk a little bit. Milkshake's like conducting, and then they all flip up cards, which, what's the point of this? Because they can't see it. No one can see it. We can see it from above. The cards, they make like this big image. I guess it's supposed to be Mark smiling with like a big 100%. And then they're like, "Mark!" So elevator opens elsewhere. James Egan, Helena's dad, walks out. There's kind of like this little cubby area. There's a desk and like a single computer screen. There's a picture hanging over the wall, which I'm pretty sure is Kier. The nurse and Gemma are walking down the hall. Egan looks at the painting and in a voice like, "Welcome, Mr. Egan. The efficacy test will begin shortly." So efficacy, what does that mean? The ability to proceed a desired or intended result. Mark and Helly are like confused. The cards go down. Milkshake's like, "Thank you, C and M." So they have this other department that is a marching band. What? So one band dude like takes off Milkshake's jacket for him. And he's like, "Let's keep the Mark S. love going." Mark whispers to Helly, he's like, "I have to leave." And he's like, "With the ballad of Ambrose and Gunnell." He's tossed like a staff, like marching baton thing. The band starts. Milkshake's like dances, and he's like, it's such a bizarre thing. He's like kind of like moving and swaying with the marching staff, and then he's like very animated. He moves the entire room, and Helly's like, "It's like, are you ready?" He's like, "Yeah," and she's like, "See you at the equator," and he's like, "See you at the equator." So Helly ducks and like moves through the band, whatever, and she goes out like behind Milkshake, grabs his walkie-talkie, and runs. So Milkshake slowly starts like moving after her. Mark like watches like him go past him, and then he looks at the exit. So he goes into the hall, he unfolds a note, and he starts running. Helly went into the bathroom. Milkshake goes, he follows her into the bathroom. He goes into a stall and he sees a walkie-talkie in the toilet. And then Helly runs out of another stall, and then she goes out of the bathroom, holds the door shut, and she's like asking the band, she's like, "Can I get a little help here?" Because she needs, someone to help
keep the door. There's no lock. They just need to keep it closed. So when Milchick tries opening it, he can't. Dylan, meanwhile, is walking down the hall. Mr. Drummond exits. He goes into like the red down elevator. He's like in the dark hall, or he went up. He exits, so he's like on the severed floor now. So he steps into the light. Then it's like when he gets out to like the regular floor, like past the long dark corridor, he kind of like shoves the wall across from that door, and then there's like a hidden door there. Mark continues moving. Gemma and a nurse walk on. They're on their level. They're headed to Cold Harbor room. So they reach the door. Gemma looks at the nurse and she smiles. Then we see the goat lady walking down the hall, and she's pushing a baby goat in like this like cart thing, like cart basket, whatever. Helly's still trying to get help, and no one's like offering. The band's still playing. She's trying to hold the door. The door finally like slips her grasp, and then both she and Milchick fall back. So she falls into like the MDR room. Milchick's in the bathroom, and he's like, Helly. He's like, where's Mark? And she yells. She's like, I don't know. Then you hear, ah! Dylan G shoves the vending machine in front of the door. So Dylan and Helly like stand in front of the door, like blocking it. And she's like, hey. And he's like, hey. And Milchick like kicks the vending machine. It doesn't move. The nurse puts her hand in like a hand sensor thing outside Cold Harbor. Tiny needle comes down, bloop, pricks her finger, and then the door opens. So Gemma looks. She walks in, and she changes. She looks around, and then the watcher dude hits the intercom button. He's like watching the camera. Enter the room. There's like this big white room, like after the first antechamber, whatever you want to call it. There's a big room. The only thing in there is a crib in the center. Enter the room. Egan is sitting at the computer. Gemma walks it forward slowly, and a voice like, who are you? And she slowly answers, I don't know. The goat lady stops in a hallway, and then she turns sideways. Drummond opens the secret door, and she's like, Mammalians Nurturable brings an offering. So this, that's their department. Drummond's like, has it verve? And she's like, it does. Wiles? And she's like, the most of its flock. And then he moves aside. He holds up a clicker as she enters, and then like the door shuts behind her. And he's like, this beast will be entombed with a cherished woman whose spirit it must guide to Kier's door. Is it up to the task? And she's like, it is. So he opens a cabinet like in the wall. He pulls out like this. It's like one of those injector guns or something like that. But I was looking. It's like, wait, it's like one of those killing pin things that they use in slaughterhouses, where it's just a big like nail pops out. But he like loads a bullet or something like that, and he holds it up, and then he's like, then give me its life. So the crib has something inside in the crib. She moves closer. The watcher dude's like, take it apart. Egan's like watching on the screen. Gemma picks up, it's an Allen wrench in the crib to take the crib apart. Milchick's still like kicking, and he yells out, hey! And he's like trying to shove the door, like, he's pounding on it, on the vending machine, not the door. And he's just like going over it, like he's like a madman. It's like kind of scary. Mark's running, he's going through the directions. Drummond's like, we commit this animal to Kier and his eternal war against pain. So it's in this like container in the center of the room. Its head's like sticking out. It's like so cute. And then he hands a gun thing over to the goat lady. So it's like he can't do it himself. So he's going to make her do it. Mark finds a door, puts his ID card in the slot, but it won't open. Then he like slams his shoulder against it. The goat lady slowly holds the gun thing to the baby goat's head. And then she's like, how many? And this is Gwendolyn Christie, by the way. She's like, how many? And Drum's like, how many what? She's like, how many more must I give? And she's like, so it's how many sacrifices baby goats have to do. Because remember when Mark and Helly found the goat room the first time, the guy's like, they're not ready yet. You can't take them. So how many more must I give? And Drummond's like, as many as the founder calls. So she puts the gun against the top of its head, and then there's kind of like a bang on the door, and they both like look back. So Mark's like tries kicking the door. Drummond tells the goat lady to hold. Mark is like, then he's like trying to climb up because there's like a vent over the door or whatever. But then Drummond walks out from the big room, which is like behind the door that Mark's like at. And Mark's just kind of like hanging on the door. And then he like drops down. He looks at Drummond, And Drummond's like, Mark S. And Mark like kind of looks around, like acts confused. He's like, wrong door. He starts to move. Drummond tries grabbing his shoulder, but Mark keeps moving. Then Drummond shoves him against the wall, and then they're like stare at each other. Then he punches Mark right in the nose, like push, and he like staggers and tries to leave, but then Drummond grabs him again and like shoves him against the wall. And he grabs him from behind, and he has his arm like around him, and then Mark, he chomps down on, and his Drummond screams, and then he tosses Mark aside. Mark tries like crawling away, but then Drummond kicks him flat, and he flips him over. And Mark kicks him in the face, and Mark like grabs his legs and makes him like fall back on his flat on his back, and Drummond's like, he like kind of curses. Mark tries crawling, but he tries crawling past him, which is like, he should have gone the other way. But then Drummond gets up, grabs his leg, drags him, slams him against the wall. And I think some of the moves that Drummond uses were from those cards that they saw before, the one that Dylan took. So he slams him against the wall. Mark's face is like getting like bloody and bruised and everything like that. Drummond gets like on top of him. He starts choking him. And Drummond's a big dude. He's got his both arms around it, and Mark's like kind of like hitting, trying to hit his hands away. Drummond almost looks like he's enjoying it. Like is he's like sick? And Mark's vision started to go blurry, and then the goat lady puts the gun up against Drummond's head, and then he pauses, and she's like, "No more killing." Mark gasps for air. Drummond knocks the gun away and also knocks the goat lady back against the wall, and then he like glares at her, and she screams and lunges at him. Because again, Gwendolyn Christie, she's a tall lady. So he shoves her back against the other wall, and he throws her down. So he does not care who he's going to beat up or try to beat up. So he throws her down, and then he turns her and he punches her across the face, and then she screams. She knees him in a crotch, slams him against the wall, and then slams against the other wall, knees him again, throws him down. He falls almost on Mark. So Mark kind of grabs at him and like holds him down. And the goat lady slams her fist against him. She just keeps hitting like 5 or 6 times, just like hitting him. His face is a bloody mess now. And then she grabs the gun and she puts it right against his forehead. And Mark yells, he's like, wait. And someone starts begging. I don't know if it was Drummond starts begging, like, please. Egan, meanwhile, is like watching the video. Gemma's like still taking the crib apart, and it's kind of creepy that he's just like watching. And a watcher's like, the barrier is holding. She feels nothing. It's beautiful. Mark guides Drummond down the dark hallway. He's holding the gun thing to his head. The goat lady like stands at the door holding the baby goat, and Mark's like, thank you. And she's like, Emile thanks you. Emile is the name of the goat. And he's like, oh, okay. And then in the elevator, Mark says to Drummond, he's like, now, in a second, I'm going to change to my Audi, and then you are going to take him to... He changes. And when he changes, he accidentally hits the trigger. It goes like Drummond's like kind of like chest, throat. Blood starts splattering as Drummond's like choking on his blood now. And then Mark, so at first I was like, which, did he turn... So we had any Mark go down. Is this Audi Mark? But part of me is like, could it be another Mark? Because if there's so many different things that Gemma's going through, or is that only Gemma? So Mark, in the changed Mark now, he starts freaking out because he's getting covered in blood. He doesn't even know what's going on. The door opens, Drummond falls forward, and his legs are kind of like blocking the door. The doors are like trying to shut, so they can't close. Mark looks around, the halls are empty. And he moves forward. He turns a corner, and he sees a door marked Minsk. So maybe he no, wait. This is Audi Mark now. It is Audi Mark. So he wouldn't recognize the names. Meanwhile, Milchick is still like kicking at the vending machine. The band's still playing. He climbs up to look over. There's a little tiny space in between the top of the vending machine and a door. Hell, he grabs a trombone from a dude, slaps it, hits him in the face, and he falls back, like clutching at his face. I'm like, oh man, what? That's going to leave a mark? It doesn't. Mark sees, he goes past Tumwater. Hell, he's like, starts grabbing more instruments, putting them in the gap. A marching dude's like, what are you doing? He's like, those instruments are property of choreography and merriment. Milchick sits up. There's no blood or marks in his face. So it's like, okay, I was like, did his nose get broke or anything? I guess not. Mark's still walking around. Gemma's still taking apart the crib. She's almost finished. The watcher dude, he's still watching like a creep. Milchick looks up. He sees the instruments jammed in. He yells out, choreography and merriment. return to your department now. So the whiny dude's like, fall back to C&M. Our performance has been compromised. And Helly's like, no, no, no. She's like, wait. And then she runs to the desk and she stands on them. She's like, this desk used to have 4 seats. Our friend Irving is gone, and they want our whole department gone. If he gets out, we're dead. They're just going to turn us off like fudging machines. So we see Mark by Waynesboro, and Helly's like, you've seen them do it. I know you've lost friends too, and you could be next. You could be next. They give us half a life and think we won't fight for it. Mark sees the Cold Harbor room, and she's like, right, Milchek? And he's just like watching from a crack between like the door frame and the vending machine. And she's like, please help us. Please help us. The nurse pops out at Mark. How'd you get in here? He's like, Jesus. And he's like, open the door. And she's like, step off, Fudjo. But she doesn't say Fudjo. And he's like, do it. He holds up the gun thing. And she's like, no. He's like, no, do it. And they're like going back and forth, go. And then she starts going down the hall. And she's like, no. She's like, Dr. Maurer. And she's like, fudge you. So he lets her go. He stays by the door. He like looks around to like see if there's any way to open it. And he puts his hand like on the sensor thing. The needle pokes his finger. He's like, ow. But obviously it's not going to open for him. He looks at the little drop of blood on his fingertip. Then he looks at the blood on his tie. It's Drummond's blood. So he puts his hand in the sensor again, and he sticks the tip of the tie where the needle comes down, and some blood goes up. So it's pulling blood off of his tie because there's like so much blood on there. The door opens. So he goes into the first room, and then he can see like the opening of the second room. He sees like her back. He's like, Gemma? And she gets startled, and she stands up because she was like kind of kneeling, and she's like holding she's holding a long piece of crib, and in front of her, it's kind of like a weapon. And he puts his hands up. He's like, it's okay, it's me. The watcher dude's watching. He's like surprised because he sees like the back of Mark's head come moving forward, and then like slowly and quietly he's like, I'm your husband, okay? Egan's watching, and Mark's like, your name is Gemma Scout. We'd been married for 4 years. We had a life together. The watcher dude hits the intercom. He's like, don't speak to that man. He's here to hurt you. Mark's like, and if you come with me right now, we can get it back. The watcher and Egan's like staring at the screens. Mark gets he takes a piece of wood. He's able to take it. She like lets it go. And he's like, this is not part of the test. Mark's like, please, don't let him touch you. Mark's like, we have to go. Then he moves his hand like towards her. She puts her hand in his. Her hands are kind of shaking a little. She takes it. Stop. And Egan's like, oh, fudge. The watcher dude picks up his phone. He's like, come on, Mr. Drummond. He's like trying to call Drummond. He curses because he's not going to answer, dude. He's dead in the elevator. Mark's like, it's okay. And she starts like walking out with him. Egan yells, fudge. Doesn't say fudge. The watcher dude like scrambles out of the watcher room. He sees the nurse running like to him. And she's like, it's a fudging spouse. And the dude's like, call Drummond. And he like runs past her. Mark opens the door, looks around. Gemma's kind of like frozen in the doorway. She's still in the Cold Harbor room. And she's like staring at him because she's someone else. No one, we don't know. He tells her, he's like, it's okay. He's like, come on out. And she's like scared. But then like the door kind of closes behind her. And then she severs. She looks at him. And then the recognition hits. And softly she's like, Mark? He smiles. They embrace. Just tears. He like starts kissing her, like holding her face, hug. They stare at each other. Their face, like forehead to forehead. Then everything goes red. Klaxon. And she's like, come on. So now that she's Gemma, she's familiar with the area. The alarm is also going off on the severed floor. Milchek looks like he's still in the bathroom. Helly is looking around. The band and Dylan, they're confused. Then Helly, does she slowly start to smile a little bit, a tiny bit? Does she know that must mean Mark found her? And, she's happy for him, even though it's weird. Mark and Gemma are running through the halls. Milchek looks around. Then he looks at himself in the mirror. And I was like, is it because he's going to get a lot of blame for this, or all the blame? They're running. Then someone, I think it's a watcher dude, like, Gemma! They're like, run. Gemma, stop! Gemma, stop! No! They reach the elevator. Drummond's legs are still blocking it, like the door open. So Mark like moves, he like shoves Drummond's legs out. The door's starting to close. The watcher dude is like almost at the door as this closes. And this part is like, what does this mean? He's like, you'll kill them all. The door closes. You'll kill them all. So what does this mean? Is if Gemma leaves, how could she kill them all? Maybe is he talking about all the personalities they've created, or is he talking about all the Audis ever created, or all the innies, everyone, or what? I don't think that just doesn't make sense. Elevator goes up, starts going up. Mark's like kissing Gemma, but then they both change, and then they're confused, and they're like looking at each other, and she's like, Mark S, and he's like, Miss Casey, and she's like, what's taking place? And he's like, and then the door to the long dark hallway opens up. He pulls her out. He's like, come on. So Milchick's standing in the middle of the bathroom, and then he charges at the vending machine again. Instruments in the top's like kind of bump. Mark and Miss Casey start running. Milchick moves back so he can take another charge at it. Hits it again, and like I think this time like the instruments like slide off, and Dylan's like still like in front of it trying to keep it in place. Mark looks around. He's trying to figure out which way to go. Milchick charges again, and then this one bumps like Dylan. He like almost falls over. He goes back. He charges again. Knocks it over. And he's like standing there looking out. So the vending machine is knocked down in his front. It's like still covering half the door. Mark and Miss Casey, they're starting to get near the stairway exit. They're getting close. Milchick hops up on the falling vending machine and he kind of crouches down. And Mark tells Miss Casey, he's like, you have to go right now. Go. And she's like, where? He's like, come on, you got to go right now. Go. All the marching band, they're staring at Milchick because they know what's going on. He's like what Helly said, he can kill them like nothing. And then Dylan's like, we see him standing in front of the whole marching band. He's like, fudge you, Mr. Milchick. Gemma goes through the exit. She changes. She gasps, and so now she's Gemma. She looks in the window, and she's like, Mark, come on. But then this is any Mark looking at her. He like hesitates at the door, and she's like, come on, we have to go. Mark, open the door. Come on. So he's standing there. If he goes through, he's done, because is he ever going to come back? He takes his hands away. She's like, what are you doing? She's like, open the door, Mark. We got to go home. Mark, open the door. Come on. And then behind him, Helly appears like around a corner. She's like, Mark? He turns. Gemma like calls to him. Then he sees him looking at her. And she's like screaming his name. He's like, Mark! Mark looks at Gemma, looks at Helly, looks back at Gemma, and starts kind of like backing up. Gemma's like banging on the door, screaming. The music changes to kind of like happy, sort of. It's the Windmills of Your Mind by Mel Torme. Thank goodness for Shazam. No, not an endorsement, but he walks to Helly. Their eyes are like locked. Their fingers interlock. Helly kind of gives Gemma a look, and then they start running down the halls back. So they run and they run. They kind of like look at each other. They keep running. Then this is like such an epic closing scene. The screen kind of freezes, and it kind of moves up close, and then it kind of changes so it looks like a painting. And we see it close up, and then the screen goes red. And then during the credit, Work Song by Bobby Darin plays. And that is the end of season 2. What are they thinking? So this is the crazy stuff, because they're what are you gonna do? They're gonna hide on the severed floor. Is this the downfall? Is Lumen going to continue? Because now that Gemma's out, she's confused. Now, the thing about Gemma, poor thing about Gemma, she's probably so confused because I don't know if she would know that Mark has an innie. She doesn't know that he works there, I'm assuming. They're not going to tell her, oh, yeah, by the way, your husband's like right above you. So she has no code, because they told her, they said that Mark moved on, that he got married. So she doesn't know that he's been severed. So she's looking at him and she's like, what is going on? Why is he not coming with me? Why is he staying with that woman? So she has no idea what's going on, which is crazy. I've been thinking, it's like, where could Mark S. and Helly go? Could they maybe try going by like the goat area, maybe like hide out somewhere? Is there food down there? How long could they survive? How long would it take for someone to find them? And the thing is, like, how big is the Lumen? Because when they went to, I forget the art, whatever, where Bert worked, and they went in that back room, that was like a huge room. That goat area was humongous. We have this merriment, whatever, this band. How many other floors are there? And how long does Does it just keep going? Or how many other secret doors are there that might open up to other sections of Lumen? So could Mark and Helly hide out? Or how long could they hide out? Do they have just 5 minutes? Do they have a week? So, man, now we gotta wait. But that was just crazy. Gemma's out, and now the thing is, Gemma. Hopefully, Devin's sitting outside, like waiting, because will they have security? The alarms went off. Will there be someone out there waiting? Are they just going to grab her as soon as she gets up to the lobby? Because she gets up there, how's she going to know which ways to exit? Maybe signs, but she's got to get out of there before someone grabs her. If she makes it out to the parking lot, if Devin's not there, then what's she going to do? We got a lot to think about. But man, I love this show so much. All right, then Daredevil season 1, episode 5, with interest. So it's St. Patrick's Day. We start seeing through the city, all this stuff's going on. Matt's sitting at a desk. It's where's he at? And he's holding the Daredevil horn. With super hearing, he hears, he's we got married at City Hall. Now we're opening a joint checking account. So he's at a bank. This other woman's talks to her friends, why doesn't she want to go out for drinks? It's St. Patrick's Day. Why don't you want to go out with us? There's this guy talking to this other guy about, it's did you see the game last night? So Matt's there to meet with Mr. Aldrich. So it's a guy comes up. He thanks him. Matt thanks him for seeing him on such short notice. And then the guy's I hate to disappoint you, Mr. Murdoch, but Mr. Aldrich had a bit of an emergency this morning. He won't be here for a few hours. And Matt's oh. He's I'm Yusuf Khan. And I was wait, Yusuf Khan? And I'm looking at the guy. Google, Yusuf Khan. And I was holy crap, it's Kamala Khan's dad from the show called Ms. Marvel that you may have seen. See it now on Disney+. So he's assistant bank manager at their New York Mutual. So he's thank you so much for waiting. And Matt's no, thank you. So Yusuf's Mr. Aldrich told me to look into your loan application this morning, which I've had and he's not wearing green today, Mr. Murdoch? And Matt's green? He's yeah, green today. And Matt's oh, I see. And he chuckles. He's no, I tend to prefer more neutral colors, less likely to clash. And he's you must be careful though. A leprechaun might pinch you. They both laugh. Then he offers Matt some candy from a bowl and holds it up. And it's wait, does he know that Matt's blind? And Matt's no thanks. Then Yusuf's phone vibrates and he apologizes. He's my daughter Kamala, she's in California, visiting some friends there. La La Land, as they say. So we got our Kamala reference again. Matt's he's where's home? He's Jersey City. And Matt's Jersey City? Well, it certainly has its own special charm. And Yusuf's you think so? And Matt's I prefer it to Hoboken. And Yusuf's that's the nicest thing I've heard anyone say about Jersey City. And he goes on some more, and it's just okay, come on. The episode is only 40 minutes. So it's we don't need this. He's it used to be part of the gateway to America. Ellis Island's part of Jersey City, etc. He's and we have our very own superhero, Ms. Marvel. And Matt's Ms. Marvel? He's I'm not sure I'm familiar. And Yusuf's He's this is her. And he holds up kind of a one of those diamond Funko Pops. So wait, he's holding this up. Does he not know Matt is blind? He's a custom designed Funko in her honor. So Matt kind of points to his face. He's oh yeah, well, you can't see. So he does know. Matt kind of chuckles. He's yeah. And Yusuf's well, it's her. And Matt's is that right? And he's oh yeah. So then Yusuf finally decides to get to the loan papers. I can see here that Murdoch and McDuffie plan on expanding rapidly, hiring new associates, moving to bigger offices. It's your firm's over-leveraged, yet you're more than willing to take on clients who have a difficult time paying, as in a tragic case of White Tiger. And Matt's Mr. Khan, if I may, have you ever needed a defense attorney? He's me? No, thankfully not. He's well, if you ever do, it's often David versus Goliath. The cops, the prosecution, public opinion, the entire system conspiring against you. We represent husbands, sons, daughters, people like you and me. So yeah, we may be over-leveraged for now, but we serve a vital function in a city that desperately needs us. And Yusuf's your compassion and willingness to take risks are the very qualities that make you an excellent defense attorney, Mr. Murdoch. But unfortunately, They are the same reasons that you do not meet New York Mutual's criteria for approval. And Matt's like, well, that's certainly the nicest no I've received yet. So then we see him exit the bank. But then some dudes in an SUV park, like they pull out assault rifles from the back. One guy is like, says he's like 20 minutes of courage and we'll get 1.8 mil and that fat bastard off Luca's back. So then they go into the same bank. Inside, the like security cameras turn off, lights turn off. 4 dudes come in like colored masks, like just like plain like primary colors. They hit the security guard and like with the rifle, but he goes down. One guy tries being a hero and grabbing one of the rifles, but he gets like hit, knocked down. Yusuf sneaks into a back office, picks up the phones to call 911, but the phones are down. Matt's walking outside. He's on the phone talking to Kristen. There was another no. He's like, they didn't meet the bank's criteria. But he's like, well, the guy, you know, he's like, he was really nice. Then he hears a scream. And he tells Kristen, hang on a second. He hears, hands in the air. He's like, you silly bastards or something like that. And then he tells Kristen, call 911. But he doesn't tell her why. So they're moving people to one side in the bank. One goes to check like the back offices. And he finds Yusuf. He tells him to drop the phone and move. Then Matt walks in the front door, like whistling. Dude wearing a red mask yells out. He's like, we have one more. And he's like, hey, you. Like, one more step and it'll be your last. And Matt's like, you talking to me? What's going on? Green mask dude is the leader. His name's Devlin. He's like, can someone lock that door, please? And Matt's like, hello, what's happening here? So then you hear, on your knees, Stevie Wonder. And Matt's like, excuse me? So Yellow goes to lock the door. Matt gets on his knees by Yusuf, who asks, he's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I thought you'd already left. And Matt said that, you know, he probably should have. And he's like, he listens carefully. And so it's like, wait, is he like, he's probably like just trying to like do inventory, get a read of the situation. Devlin's like, okay, no need to explain. You've seen the movies or whatever. He's like, stay where you are. Keep your heads down. Your trap's shut. And he's like, the guns are loaded, you know, et cetera, et cetera. He's like, if anyone wants a question that, you know, it's like, you can find out the hard way. And Matt chimes in. He's like, you kill anyone and your armed robbery charge converts to a felony murder. Then you're looking at 25 to life. So Devlin's like, oh, we have a solicitor on our hands. And he motions the red guy who jabs the butt of his rifle against Matt's ribs. And he's like, oh, all right then. Mr. Solicitor here may not have understood the rules. Let it be a warning now. Now, where is the bank manager? I need to see a Mr. Stephen Aldrich. He has an like Irish accent, and my Irish accent's like horrible. We have a blind man. Do we have a deaf one as well? I said, Stephen Aldrich, come out wherever you are. Please, Stephen. Matt like hears sirens wailing in the distance. The mobile command unit and squad car, we see them coming. There's some other cars like almost right there. So then the yellow's like, cops are here. It's the purple in cursives. Red's like, you got to be kidding me. And then Devlin, green, he's like, the manager. Now, we start shooting. A lady's like, I don't think the manager's here. Please don't shoot us. Then Devlin points at Yusuf. He's like, what's your name? And he tells him, he's like, you work here, right? He's like, yes, sir. What's your title, Yusuf Khan? And he's like, assistant bank manager? Assistant? And he's like, assistant bank manager. Where's the non-assistant bank manager? And Yusuf's like, actually, he's had a bit of emergency this morning. He won't be in for a couple of hours. So Yellow yells, a couple of hours? And Red's like, shut it. He's like, Yusuf Khan, or Green. Devlin's like, shut it. Yusuf Khan, you're going to open the vault. Can you do that for me, Yusuf Khan? He's like, yeah, yes, sir. Good man. Yellow's like, SWAT's pulling up. Red's like, SWAT? Devlin's like, stay fluid. All right. Courage. We talked about this. Matt's like listening to them. Nothing changes. He's like, they do them, we do us. And into the bank crowd. All right. Looks like we're going to be spending a little more time together than we thought. This isn't a fetching party. The less you know about us, and the less we know about you. Let's keep it that way. Faces down. Devlin and the red guy, they go into the back office, take off their hoods. Devlin says that someone must have triggered an alarm before they got in. But Red's like, before we got in, it's like, how could they have known we were coming? Devlin's like, hey, none of that matters. Eyes on the prize, right? We do what the boss told us to do. We go to plan B. So Matt's still listening. He's like, you stay with the hostages, and I'll handle the cops. Blue takes the assistant manager downstairs to open the vault. So Matt hears like a rapid heartbeat. And he says to Yusuf, he's like, you can't open it, can you? The vault. And Yusuf like sighs. He's like, look, I didn't know what to say, okay? Matt's like, it's okay. And Eustace's like, I just panicked. I thought he was going to. And Matt's like, shh. And he's like, probably I should just tell him, right? And Matt's like, no, not now. He won't believe you. He'll think you're bluffing. And Eustace's like, oh. And Matt's like, where is it? And Eustace's like, 4 floors below. Matt's like, okay, all right. When he takes you down there, you stall as long as you can, okay? Can you do that? And he's like, yes. So officers of SWAT outside are, looking, for way in. Then Detective Angie Kim comes up to like the lead SWAT guy, Rodrigo, I think his name, Rodriguez. So she was the one, she was partnered with Cherry. We saw her like in the first episode of this season when Bullseye attacked. So Rodriguez says, he's like, where's this one other dude or whatever? And she's like, today, like half the force is face down in a pool of Guinness by now. She's like, I'm the acting deputy hostage negotiator, 5th precinct. She asked for a status report. Rodriguez says that a call came in at 9:14 a.m., 20 civilians. At 9:15, every camera and line of communication went down. There's no contact yet. This other officer holds up a phone, like perfect timing. She's like, this is Detective Kim. She's like on speakerphone. Whom do I have the pleasure of speaking with? And Devlin's like, whom? Elocution off the top. Very impressive, Detective. Detective Kim, was it? So he says that she can just call him Jesse James. And she's like, oh, that's clever. And she's like, you picked a heck of a day to rob a bank. And she's like, do you want to come out and raise a pint with me? Lots of Guinness out here. And he laughs. He's like, it sounds tempting. And you sound calm, firm, and resolute, just like the manual says. And Kim's like, I didn't know the NYPD manual is available in Belfast. He laughs. He says, but cops around the world are pretty much all the same. Next, she'll be trying to establish the upper hand. And she's like, except in this case, I'm not sure I have to try. You're surrounded, Mr. James. Only way this ends is with you in handcuffs or a body bag. And he's like, let's try to avoid the latter then, shall we? And she's like, nothing would make me happier. And he's like, good. Let's start with 3 armored APVs then, parked right out front. And she's like, you sure you'll be needing that many seats? From what I understand, your crew isn't that big. Detective Kim, my job is to rob the bank, right? Your job is to prevent every hostage inside the bank from getting a fudging bullet to the fudging head. And we see Matt's like listening. You have until 9:45. And she's like, that's less than 30 minutes. He's like, and? And she's like, and I need something from you. Give me 2 hostages as a sign of good faith. And he puts on the phone. Red asks, like, what's the move? And Devlin says, let them think that they're in control, just like the boss says. So they go out to the main part of the bank. Devlin kind of looks them over. Who shall we choose? He tells a young lady to stand up. Then he nudges Matt and he yells, congratulations, you've both been emancipated. And the lady's like, but my husband, we just got married. And he tells her, her husband's like, just go, just get out of here. And Matt's like, let him take my place. And Devlin's like, sorry? Matt's like, I said, let him take my place. He's like, this isn't a debate, solicitor, but thank you for the suggestion. And Matt's like, just because I'm blind doesn't mean I need your pity. And Devlin's like, do I strike you as some sanctimonious twat trying to do right by the visually impaired, do I? And he kind of laughs. I don't like you, solicitor. I don't like your kind. I don't like the clever little ways you twist the truth. I'm not letting you go. I'm getting rid of you. And Matt's like, that's understandable. All I know is you're offering me a chance to save myself, which I appreciate. What I'm saying is, to you, is give it to this woman's husband. Is that what you're saying to me? What's your name? He's like, Matthew Murdoch. Murdoch? Oh, Jesus. He's like, not just a blind solicitor with a martyr complex, but an Irishman. Where's your family from then, Mr. Murdoch? And he's like, Hell's Kitchen. Hell's Kitchen. You hear that, lads? Hell's Kitchen. Before the big swim, Mr. Smarts. Matt's like, I don't know. I was raised in an orphanage. Jesus wept. A blind solicitor. And hold it, an orphan? Are you bloody serious? And he kind of chuckles. You're like a regular wee Charles Dickens character, aren't you? He's like, fudge, take the husband. This one's got to stay. They try, like, thank you, Matt. Like, thank you, whatever. Devlin puts the end of the rifle against Matt's chest, and people are like, oh. He's like, careful what you wish for, Mr. Murdoch. And he's like, Khan, on your feet. And Matt, like, hears his heartbeat going fast. He also hears, like, a helicopter overhead. Outside, they see Yellow let the 2 people out. Inside, a guy says to another hostage, just like they're a hostage dude. He was like the sports guy. He tells us all, he's like, It's like, all this BS just for the vault? He's like, get out of here. He's like, there's no cash in there, just a bunch of safety deposit box. Mask, he's still standing. He's like, how do you know that? Dude's like, this is my family's been banking here since they got off the boat. He's like, I got my grandmother's ring in there, some other heirlooms. And he's like, I got a 1994 Marc Messier signed puck. It's probably the most valuable thing in this bank. Matt like laughs. He's like always laughing at it. He's always so cheerful. He's like, Rangers fan, huh? The guy's like, Rangers, Jets, Mets, baby, all day. This lady's like, I bet it's diamonds. Like, what else could it be? Then she tells Matt, she's like, it was great what you did, but could you maybe sit down so you don't get us all in trouble? Right at that moment, Yellow comes up. He's like, what are you doing on your feet? And Matt, and then Red comes up, and he's like, what's going on? So he's like, get on your knees. And Matt's like, sorry, guys. He's like, I need to go. And Red's like, should have taken your chance when you had it, Stevie. I don't know why. Oh, Stevie Wonder. Matt like chuckles. He's like, no. He's like, to the restroom. And then Red's like, anyone else for the loo? And like, there's no one. Then Red says, Yellow, tell him I'm taking the solicitor to the gents. He puts a barrel of shotgun against Matt's forehead. People like freaking out. He's like, you feel that, eh? And Matt's like, mm-hmm. He's like, good. Just making sure we understand each other. Yusuf starts giving like a tour lesson. He's like, this bank was built in 1931. The vault was built first. The bank was constructed around it. And we see like Matt's listening as he's like kind of walking, being guided to the bathroom. He like loosens his tie a little bit. The Red tells him, he's like, okay, turn left, go through those doors, like stairs. Matt, he starts like folding up his walking stick before he goes down the stairs. Meanwhile, Blue tells Yusuf to open the vault. Yusuf's like, oh no. He's like, I have family. Matt starts walking slowly down the stairs. He pulls at his tie, whips it off, uses it to pull down the rifle. It like hits like the side of the stairs, like kind of dangling off. He stops it with his feet from like falling over. He grabs a guy who pulls out a knife. He whips him forward and bonk, hits his head on the metal railing. They tumble down a little bit. Matt has like kind of tie around his neck. He's like tightening it, pulling it, but Red slices it with his blade. Matt leverages against like a step. He gets him to drop the knife. Yusuf, meanwhile, because they're being kind of quiet. So Yusuf's like, he's like, could you get me a snack? He's like, a granola bar, maybe a banana. It would work wonders for my nerves. And Blue like raises his rifle. He's like, do you want to see that family of yours? Open the bloody door. Matt is behind Red. He kind of has him in a chokehold, but then he notices that the rifle is starting to slip on the stairwell. It falls over, but it's like kind of spiral stairs. So Matt like leans, reaches out. He catches it. So Red is, and he kind of fell back in order to grab it or something like that. So Red somehow like passed out or got knocked out. So Matt pulls off his mask and he hears Yusuf at the bank dial, and he says, he's like, wait. He's like, we passed the first of the month already? He's like, because the bank changes the combination of the vault the first Tuesday every month. And he tries like thinking. Blue yells like, he's like, enough. Yusuf's like, please don't shoot me. And Blue's like, you've been lying to us this whole time, haven't you? He's like, if you know the correct combination, then I'm the bloody king of England. Then Matt comes up behind him, hits him from behind, knocks him out one blow somehow. It was like special kidney punch. I don't know what it was. Yusuf gasps, Mr. Murdoch. So Blue's radio goes off. Devlin's like asking, he's like, what's the status? So Matt picks up and then Yusuf's like, Matt. And he's like, he fakes the guy's voice like with Irish accent. He said that he had to like motivate the bank manager and they're almost in. So Devlin's like kind of thinks and he's like, then why are you talking to me then? So Matt kind of like knocks on the vault door. He looks at it. Yusuf's like, what are you doing? Matt says that there's 3 men up there with automatic weapons on the hostages. He's like, they can't just go up empty-handed. So he's like, what's behind the vault should, buy them some time, let them think that they're in control. Yusuf's like, the vault has a 4-turn tumbler, which means it has over 100 million possible combinations. You can't just crack it open like it's a piggy bank I gave Kamala to instill in her the value of saving. So Matt's at the dial. He's like, did it work? And Yusuf's like, did what work? Matt's like, the lesson, the value of saving. And Yusuf's like, oh, I don't know. I guess we just try to impart what we know to the next generation. Matt gets the vault open. And Yusuf's like, exactly what kind of lawyer are you? He's like, a really good one. He walks in. Devlin asks Detective Kim where they stand on transportation. And she's like, do you have any idea how many streets are blocked off today? It's like getting anything to the financial district is a logistical nightmare. Devlin's like, oh, this is the part where the negotiator pleads for more time. And she's like, does it sound like I'm pleading? And she says, I'm going to need another hour to get anything in. He's like, you recognize the accent, but you lose the significance of St. Patty's Day or something like that. He's like, let's make this interesting. And he's like, you'll have exactly 3 minutes to think of a joke. If you can make me laugh, I'll give you 3 more. And then she calls out to the officer. She's like, hey, it's like, anyone know who knows a good joke? So she's just looking at like no one saying anything about a joke. But then it cuts to at the vault, and they're in there. Matt's like, it's just safety deposit boxes, and Yusuf is like 1,273 of them. And Matt's like, and they all require a key, and he's like 2 to be precise. 1 to bankers, second one to owners. So he has like the master key, whatever. And Matt's like, so then what are they? And Matt goes, he goes out, he checks the blue guy's like pockets. He comes back with a key. It's like, must be our lucky day, which is, very lucky. Outside, Detective Kim is like, she's like, you're telling me none of you know a good joke? And then Devlin's like tired of waiting. He's like, action. She's like, okay. So a priest finds a 4-leaf clover on the hills of Donegal. And then Devlin's like, an Irish joke, really? Matt asks Yusuf to check if there's a number on the key. He looks at it. He's like, it's been erased. So probably like carved off something. He's like, but I can vaguely see a 4. But so here's the problem I had. It must be, the 4 must have been the first number. Because if 4 is like the third number, that's harder to narrow down. Because he just starts like checking, like trying, going in like down. So it must have been the first number. But so Angie's like, priest rubs a 4-leaf clover and out pops the leprechaun. The priest is ecstatic. He thinks, this must be my lucky day. It's like what the leprechaun, the leprechaun now owes him a wish. But before the priest can utter a word, the leprechaun asks him, and she does like an Irish accent. It's like, Father, do you by any chance have a leprechaun nun in your congregation? And Devlin's like, bravo, detective, 10 out of 10 on the accent. So then the priest says, hate to break it to you, sonny, but there's no such thing in this world or the next as a leprechaun nun. Then the leprechaun shakes his head, confused, forlorn. Blimey, he says, I just fudged a penguin. There's like a pause, and then Devlin starts laughing. But then he's like, you have 10 minutes before I shoot the first hostage. So he gives her more time, but he's still going to start shooting. And it's like, what's the point? As soon as he shoot a hostage, it's like, you're not getting out of there. Yusuf's been trying several boxes. Matt's been like listening to like the phone conversation, a joke. Yusuf dropped the key. He like drops the key a couple times. He keeps trying, and he's like, "So was it true what you said upstairs, Mr. Murdoch, about being an orphan?" And Matt's like, "Mm-hmm." It's like, "My father died when I was just a boy. It's like I never knew my mother until much later in life." He's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. So it must have been difficult." And he's like, "No need to apologize, Mr. Khan." And he drops the key again. So he probably like, oh, it's like, I'm just out of sorts. And Matt's like, hey, you're doing a great job. It's like, we're almost there. We're going to make it out of here. He's like, you're going to see your daughter again. It's like, but what about his son? He has a son, right? Yeah, she has a brother. But then he's like, inshallah, which I was like, what does that mean? Because he doesn't say anything. I looked up, it's like, if Allah wills it. So he finally finds the key. He opens it. He's like, oh, there's like a jewelry pouch. And he's like, wow, that is one impressive diamond. And it's like maybe like the size of a dime, like just really thick and solid. But it's bright, but almost like kind of amberish. It's not like a white diamond. Matt's like, may I hold it? And he's like, sure. It's a pretty high-end stone for a bunch of rough Irish robbers. And Matt's like, well, I heard the leader mention a boss, I think, working for someone. So then Matt hears, the hostages whimpering, siren blaring, and then he hears Rodriguez, the SWAT dude outside. He's like, clocks up on the fun and games, detective. It's time to go in. He's like, fan him out. And she's like, Captain, it's like, you storm that bank right now, innocent people will be caught in the crossfire. And he's like, innocent people already caught in the crossfire. Prepare to advance. So it's like, is that really a strategy? It's like, okay, you got 20 hostages. We're just going to go in and they're probably all going to get killed. But we'll stop these 4 bank robbers. Matt's like, we need to get upstairs. So Devlin's got the green mask back on. He's talking on the radio. He's like, what's taking so long? And he goes up to Yellow. And he's like, where's the blind one? And Yellow's like, I don't know. He's like, he's not back yet. And he's like, I don't like this. So Matt and Yusuf walk up. Yellow's like, behind you. And Devlin's like, stop right there. And the hostages gasp. And he's like, how the hell did you get up here? And Matt's like, you're asking the wrong question. You're running out of time. You need to think about your next move. He's like, hands up, both of you, now. And Yusuf puts his hands up. Matt's like, no. You let these people go now while you still can. And he's like, what are you talking about? Matt's like, when was the last time you spoke to the hostage negotiator? Been a while, right? That's because the police are no longer negotiating. And he's like, well then, solicitor, maybe I need to convince him I'm serious. So he lowers the rifle that was pointed at Matt. He points to this woman hostage. He's like, Matt's like, you and I both know you didn't come here to kill anybody. You came here looking for this. And he holds up the diamond. And Devlin's like, how the hell did you get that? And Matt's like, it was on one of your men. And Matt hears Rodriguez like, we go on my count. And he starts counting 10, 9. And Matt's like, now let these people go. It's like, I'll give you the diamond. Everybody wins. 6, 5. And Devlin's like, or I just shoot you in the head. 4. And take it from you. You have no leverage, son. And Matt's like, and you have no time. Devlin's like, I'm going to give you 3 seconds before I put a bullet in your head. 3. Rodriguez like, 2. And then 1. And Matt's like, here, catch. He throws it up. And then the smoke bombs get thrown in. So SWAT is moving in. They're yelling, on the ground, on the ground. Devlin moves. Yellow shoots a bit. People get like, or purple gets nabbed, forced to his knees. Mask gets ripped off. Yellow aims at the officers, but Matt comes behind him, shoves his head against like the concrete wall, like this big pillar or something like that. Then he like smashes him in the face with his cane as he walks past him. So Matt's listening. And then Devlin steps out of the back office wearing like a cop's uniform. He hands the diamond off. He's like, get this to Luca. So he actually gives it to the lady that he pointed the rifle at, that he was going to shoot her. Devlin steps outside. Matt walks towards the door, like holding his head. He's like, oh, I need to see the medic. But there's an officer who's like, hold it. The sports fan hostage is like, hey, this guy was a hostage. He's with us. So the cop's like, okay, lets him out. Matt like listens, starts following him. And then Matt starts taking apart his walking stick. He takes off his glasses. Devlin, he's like walking. He's like around. He's down the street, whatever. Takes off the officer's mask, kind of tosses it. Then Matt puts on the red mask that he took from the red dude, and he goes after Devlin. They're like under like some construction girder stuff or whatever, and so they start fighting. It's like, is Matt rusty? Because he's taking some hits, and you think he'd be like super skilled. But I guess he doesn't really fight as often anymore. I don't know if that was intentional. But then, at one point, it looks kind of violent. He smashes Devlin's face against, there's like a bottle sitting atop of like a newspaper machine. So he's got like broken glass, like around his eye, like it didn't get in there. But then he kicks him to the other side. And then Devlin's like kind of like falls back, leaning back. Matt jumps over, whoosh, snaps his knee, his leg at the knee. Oh, it was so nasty. And then like the screen goes. Oh, and then you see Devlin's looking up, and then Matt just like stomps on him. Screen goes black. So then we see the lady with the diamond. She's walking down the street. She goes around a corner, and she takes out the pouch to look at the diamond, but it's a butterscotch candy from Yusuf's dish. And then the Irish like rock song plays, like Young Dubliners. Rocky Road to Dublin starts playing. Then back at the bank, Yusuf's, I think this must be later, because he's like, oh, the police told me they never found a diamond, and the lead robber didn't have it. None of the robbers did. And Matt's like there. So this is again like another day, because he's wearing a different shirt. He's like, what do you think happened? And Yusuf's like, oh, I think you're right. They must have had a boss, someone inside the bank. And Matt's like, very strange. He's like, still, I always believe things happen for a reason. And Yusuf sighs. He's like, if this is about us reconsidering your loan, Mr. Murdoch. And Matt chuckles. He's like, he's always chuckling. He's like, I didn't come here about the loan. I just came here to check on you. And Yusuf's like, oh, good. He's like, thank you. But you know what? Perhaps we can brainstorm on ways to make your firm more profitable. Over dinner with my family? Matt chuckles. He's like, I'd like that very much, as long as it involves a trip to Jersey City, Mr. Khan. And then Yusuf chuckles. He's like, great, it's a plan then. And please, call me Yusuf. He's like, my wife, Muniba, she makes the most delicious fresh parathas. And my daughter. And Matt's like, the famous Kamala. Which is, now it's getting to the point, it's like, okay, stop name dropping Kamala. We all love Kamala, but it's like, unless you're going to put her in the episode, you don't need to keep mentioning her so many times. But he's like, yes, Kamala. I'm like, okay, great. I will see you at dinner then, Mr. Murdoch. And he's like, please, Matthew. And then Matt's like, I think I'm going to try one of these. And he takes one of the candy, and Yusuf's like, you must. And Matt's like, So he leaves. Yusuf's like sits, and then he looks at the bowl, and he like looks at it carefully. The diamond's at the bottom, and then he like looks up. So what does that mean? So is he going to return the diamond? Is he going to keep the diamond? Because Matt's like, everything happens for a reason. So what? And that's the end of the episode. So it was weird in a way, but then what I found afterwards that actually a couple days after, that this was like the only episode that wasn't really like overhauled, like when they were like going to like redo stuff. So it kind of feels like it's its own like out of continuity story. There's no mention of anyone else. There's no Dr. Glenn. There's no Kingpin or anything like that. But it was a nice story. And then I think, which since I haven't watched 106 yet, it's called Excessive Force. So I think things are going to get a little darker. So this was kind of like a more lighthearted. There is a little bit of violence, but it was kind of a fun thing. And having Kamala's dad was a nice little thing. Even though I felt like they kind of overdid it a tiny bit, but it was nice to connect the larger Marvel universe. So that was Daredevil. Next week we'll do episodes 6 and 7. All right, let's talk. Even though it's been out for a while, it came out November of 2024. We're going to talk Anora. So I finally saw it. And this movie of the year, right? It won won 5 Oscars. It won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Original Screenplay, and I think it was also Best Editing or something like that. It was good, and it's a really well-made film. It's well acted and everything like that. But this isn't going to be like a full long coverage of the movie because one, maybe you've already seen it or it's been out, or maybe you're not interested, or I don't know. I didn't love it. I totally respect the movie and everything, how it was made and everything that went into it. But I'm looking at it, and this is my thing. It's been like this for a while. I don't even watch the Oscars anymore. The majority of the time, I don't know if it just says something, maybe my tastes aren't classy enough, or I don't know. But I think I mentioned this before. I always find it interesting or odd that the movies that get nominated, Oscar movies, they're not the necessarily big box office, hits or anything like that. Does that matter? Does it need to be? It's just, I don't know. You'll get, and I'm not saying something like Deadpool versus Wolverine should win an Oscar for movie of the year. It should have got something like, at least a nomination for like special effects or costume or something. Deadpool and Wolverine didn't make like over $1 billion. Anora, which is still playing in theaters, it's made $53 million, $53.5 million worldwide. Does that not matter? And I know you could say, well, how many theaters did Anora play in versus how many theaters did something like Deadpool versus Wolverine open in and play in? You can't really compare them, and they're two different type of movies. They shouldn't be compared. But I'm just using it as an example. So it's just I really don't know what to say about this, and maybe it's just that the Oscar movies aren't for me, and that's fine. I will always say, not everything has to be for me. Just like last week, Snow White wasn't necessarily for me, but I can appreciate it. I mean, I just, I don't know. It seems weird. So despite that, that has nothing to do with anything. That's just, they're different types of movies, different things. I do think it means something. And, why is it that so few people saw this movie in theaters? Is it because it just didn't open in that many theaters, or there's not interest? I don't know. But let's not dwell on that so much. How is the movie itself? When I saw it, it's like Pretty Woman, and I've kind of seen some other people making that comparison and so forth. I just look at the story. So as you know, Mikey Madison, who she was great in it. She goes full in. She gives a performance, and she brings this character to life. I mean, she feels like real. She just with her accent, her attitude, and there's just there's something very, I don't know if I'd say refreshing. Just just the attitude and just how it's just she doesn't back away from anything, and it's refreshing to see that, because often the women characters are they're helpless or this or whatever, they're secondary characters. So it's always nice when the female character is the lead, or is the can try to take control of the situations. Things get a little outlandish here, and she does get in kind of over her head, and it's also nice to see that shift where she is just doing what she can, while at the same time keeping as much control as possible. So it starts off, she's a stripper, early 20s, 23 I think it was, and this kid comes in. He's young. I guess he's 21, and he's a Russian kid,
and he's got all this money, he's throwing her all this money. So at the strip club, they ask for someone who speaks Russian, and Anora, who she goes by Annie, she knows some Russian, and I think because of her grammar or something like that, and so she goes to work with him or whatever, and he ends up wanting to see her again, and it just goes from there. So then he ends up like wanting to pay her $10,000 to be his girlfriend for the week, and then it gets to like, let's get married, and she's like, what? And then she kind of goes for it. He's like, yeah, let's go to Vegas or something like that. And this is where it's not fully clear what his deal is, because he's got this big house, and obviously there's money in the family, because she asks him what does he do, and I think at first he said drugs, and he's like, no, I'm joking, whatever. Then he's like, it's guns, but then he's like laughs again. So you don't know what he's doing, but basically he's this rich, I guess you can say spoiled kid. He just wants to party all the time, and he's going to strip clubs, he's going to clubs and partying and everything like that. And he's not working; he just plays video games at home, and he just drinks and whatever, does some drugs. And so they get married, and part of what he says is, because if he doesn't get married, then he's got to go back home. So if they get married, it could be like a green card thing. She kind of goes along with it, and that's like, okay, so is this just a business deal for her? Does she actually feel anything for him? Because they spend a week together. Then what happens is, like, the people in control at a family, like associates family, when they find out, they get pissed off, and they're like, we're getting an annulment and all this stuff like that, and then it becomes this whole big fiasco, because when they get to the mansion, like this cardinal dude or whoever, and a couple goons, the Russian kid, Ivan, right? I think that's his name. He takes off. So the majority of the movie is like trying to find him. And meanwhile, Anora is like, she's kind of being forced to go along, and she's fighting the best she can, and stuff like that. And there's some great moments, but that's really the gist of the movie, where it's like trying to find the kid, and then are they going to get an annulment or whatever, and yeah, and then the way it ends, it's like, okay, what does this mean? And so I don't know. It's even my wife, she's like, this one picture a year, and again, I'm not trying to knock anything about the production or the acting or the story and anything like that, but it didn't seem like an overly complex story. And because it wasn't it like best screenplay or something like that. So you look at it, and yeah, what does that exactly mean if it's the best screenplay? Is it can't be like The Situation or whatever, because it's some parts Pretty Woman and some parts whatever, hunting for the kid, and just dealing with the situation. There, you could say, yeah, the dialogue and the interactions and the characterizations, all that was great, but it's just. Every year it just kind of reassures, but it just drives home the fact that Oscar movies aren't for me. I mean, I don't. I feel kind of bad that I didn't like it more, because I feel it does do some good things. And there's some talk how it praises the sex worker industry, and I think. There's something to be said for that too, to sex workers, because they are human beings or whatever, and often they're portrayed in a certain light, and I feel like this movie does give them more credibility. It humanizes them a little more, and it's not a matter of do you agree or not with the profession, but it's just it is a profession. Some people choose to use it for whatever reasons, and they should also be kept safe and everything like that. So, I don't know. I mean, it's a good movie. I'm glad I saw it. It's not something I need to see in a theater. And me, it's like, do we need so much nudity and stuff like that? I'm not saying I'm against it, but and I feel like it was handled fine. That there was quite a bit, but it was part of the story. Could the story have been told without it? Sure. Yeah.
So like I said, it is worth watching. Just keep in mind, don't see it with the family necessarily. I watch it with my family, and it was fine because we're all adults. But it's a good movie. I don't know, like best picture year. But the other thing is like I don't think I've seen. I'm trying to think of what else was nominated for best picture of the year. I saw anything else that was nominated. So again, what does that say for me and all the movies that we cover on this podcast? None of them are considered, to be good enough. That's why I don't like the awards, because I think everything's subjective, and it's a matter of preference. And if you love the movie, like if you think it's the best thing, that's fine. That's great. Like if you love Snow White, that's great. If you don't like it, and I think that's the problem I'm having now, because I don't like necessarily talking negatively about something, because I totally respect everything, all the hard work that goes into it, and also the fact that like if someone else does really like it, I don't want to tell them that like, oh, your opinion is wrong, that you're silly for liking that, because I mean, if you love this movie, great, I'm happy, and I totally, no sarcasm, but it's just that I just don't like that, and as I looked on YouTube, I'm seeing all this like reactions, and I don't want to. I don't have time to watch all these, whatever reactions videos. But I feel like I'm not the only one. What does that mean? Are we all knuckleheads that we can't appreciate fine art? I don't know. I mean, so again, it's a good movie. I just don't think it's the best movie of the year. What was my best favorite movie of the year? And again, see what I would say, without like over analyzing it, really thinking like about it, I would say for me, I really love Heretic. I thought that was a brilliant movie. It was suspenseful, and I just thought that's like the dialogue and there was the whole thing, and maybe some people don't like the way it's kind of knocking religion or whatever, but I just love the comparison, and it's kind of a talking movie, but then there's also suspense movies, and there's kind of twists in there, so it was kind of like a mix of everything. How many awards was Heretic nominated for? 0. It won the award in my heart. So go see Anora. Check it out. Like I said, it's still in some theaters. It's on Hulu. It'll probably be streaming somewhere else soon. It's good. It is what it is. So you should check it out at some point, maybe. Okay, now our second of 3 movie features. I didn't mention it with Anora. That was the first one. The second one. It was a crazy weekend for me last weekend, last weekend, whatever, is Odessa. So Odessa is a movie that came out on Hulu. It stars Sadie Sink, and I'm trying to think. I think she was the only person I knew in there. So it's a Fox Searchlight Pictures, and so it's like, why wasn't this released in theaters? And is it because it's a smaller budget, whatever, or maybe? I mean, I guess maybe it was always intended to be for Hulu. I mean, that's possible. So maybe it's just like meant to be a Hulu exclusive, because Searchlight is Fox, Fox is Hulu's all Disney and whatever. So, and here's the thing: of the two, which is a better movie? I mean, Anora, and I hate to compare. Anora is obviously a better movie, just in terms of screenplay and of whatever production. I'm sure it had actually, I don't even know if maybe it had a higher budget, maybe not. But Odessa, I found this to be a much more interesting movie because of what went into it. It is not necessarily a great story. I feel like the movie was a little too long. It's 106 minutes. There are some points it felt like it dragged a little bit, but I found I feel like it had a lot of ambition with what it did. What is the movie about? It's basically a post-apocalyptic movie. The world sucks. It's all devastated, whatever. And it's kind of like a sci-fi movie because of that. Because whenever we see these dark futures, there's always something. But the way it was made, just the whole vibe of the movie, it has like a 80s sci-fi vibe to it, and I thought that was really cool and clever, and I'm sure that was the point. And there was the other thing that really like scored points for me. There were some parts it reminded me of Max Headroom, the TV show. I love that show. I really need to get like a high quality version, because I have it like I have it on VHS. I liked the show so much, and it's like I knew I was going to like it, whatever. So I recorded it on VHS, and a friend of mine he somehow got like a bootleg DVD of it, and he gave that to me, which I haven't tried watching it, and there's like I think it's on Blu-ray, regular Blu-ray. It's not like 4K, but I really love that show. And part of the thing what I like about Max Headroom is, and this is like the comparison, and I'm totally going off on a tangent. I could talk on and on about Max Headroom. But with Max Headroom, it's like the TVs were always on. TVs couldn't turn off. You have your different channels, and everyone was like watching TVs pretty much all the time, and it was all about the ratings and that. So for the Max Headroom show, I mean, that was so brilliant because it was like such a statement against society and all that. So there's a lot of blah blah blah, all these undertones and stuff like that. But there are some points with in Odessa. There's this the guy that's kind of in charge, and I don't know if he's in charge of the world or if it's just America or whatever the thing is. So there's this. It's almost like he's controlling everything, and there's it's almost like this game show contestants, like who are you the one. And I don't know if I mentioned, this is kind of like a rock opera show, so that adds another layer to it, which makes it a little weird. Sometimes that doesn't always work, but there's elements of this, which I don't know how many people remember this. There's this movie called Rock and Rule. It's an animated movie. I'm trying to see, like, this 1983. So I have this on DVD, and it's got some really cool art. It's apparently a Canadian adult animated musical science fiction film, and I think there's like Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, Earth, Wind and Fire, Cheap Trick, Debbie Harry. So there's like all this like really great music to it. So if you ever get a chance, check out Rock and Rule. If you can find it. I mean, like I said, I bought it on DVD, and maybe you could still find a copy. I don't know if it's like streaming anywhere. I doubt it. But there's some things like that kind of was similar. And the story basically is Sadie Sink. There's stuff to do with like something that came out of the ground, and part of it is like it ate up the world, or something with the resources, like this weird element, something. So Sadie Sink lives like out on a farm, like desolate, nowhere, and it's like her and her mom, because like her dad passed away, or that's the story, that's what they think. And he was a rambler too. So he played a guitar, and I guess he went out and played. So he went out one time, and then he never came back. The only thing that came back was his guitar. And there's something about his guitar, there's these visions, because I think it was the wood came from the sacred tree or something like that, and it's like carved in the guitar. And there's supposed to be like this legend about who will be the one, the seventh son or something like that. And what he says to Sadie Sink, we see a flashback when she was like a little kid, and he's like, "You are the seventh son." He's like, "Peck her or not, you're the seventh son, and you will save our world," or something like that. And so she can like play the music, and her mom's like not super supportive about that, because she's like, you need to be realistic. We're living on this farm, even though their resources are super limited and all that. But then basically the story, the mom passes, and so Sadie Sink's like, well, she's going to go to like the big city, and then what ends up happening is her guitar gets stolen. She gets swindled out of her guitar, so she needs to get the guitar back, and then falls into like other adventures and stuff like that. So then it kind of turns into, as it's an adventure story. She's going to the city, but then with the city, you have to be careful because there's certain people in charge. Some people are shipped off to this weird potential. So with this game show thing, there's like a dangerous element to it as well, because you get like, some people get like this facelift, and you get like basically mutated or something like that, and it's not necessarily safe for you. It's not like, oh, you didn't win, here's a consolation prize. And so there's definitely people like messing with power and just like all the different sorts of things. And so yeah, I felt it was an interesting movie. But again, just the fact that they create this rock opera 80s post-apocalyptic world, And the music is, music is fine. We get a couple variations and stuff like that. But the main reason I wanted to watch this is because of Sadie Sink. I think Sadie Sink was really good in Stranger Things, unlike a certain other person in Stranger Things, which I'm not super crazy about. So it's like, yeah, I want to support this movie because the other person, Millie Bobby Brown, a lot of people, and again, this is a matter of taste, where a lot of people are like, oh, she's such a good actress and everything like that. But looking at Millie Bobby Brown on Stranger Things, especially like the last season, is like pretty much all she's doing is like screaming, and that's that's what the character calls for. So I'm like, how, there's not a lot of depth to it, but you look at the last season, like Sadie Sink, and just like the struggles and what she went through, and because like she was potentially marked for death or possession or whatever, and I just felt there's like so much more depth to like what she went through, and even before, like with her losing her brother, spoilers, and just like different things. And then of course Sadie Sink and All Too Well music video, like the 10-minute video, whether you love Taylor Swift or not, but you just Sadie Sink's performance in this music video, no dialogue or anything like that, but you can see like just the story told through the song, and it's like gut wrenching just seeing what she goes through with that. And it's a sad song and all that, but if you haven't watched it, and again, regardless of I love Taylor Swift, but if you watch the song or watch the video and you'll see her performance, I mean, she's really amazing with that, and that that really for me is like, I was like, wow, Sadie Sink is someone that we need to keep an eye on. And so with this movie, she does perform, and she does a good job here. But like with Millie, and I feel horror. I don't mean to compare the two, but the Enola Holmes, I saw the first one. It was okay. It was a little too quirky, whatever. Again, it's not saying that I can't necessarily say, I don't know if she's a bad actress or a good actress, and because part of it could just be the roles that she takes. And I did see that I don't even remember what it's called, that princess movie, and with that I wasn't crazy about the story. And the Electric State, I'm not going to watch that. So Odessa is an interesting movie. It is not great. I'm sure it's not going to have, it doesn't have, great ratings or anything like that. I just think it's really cool, what they do. And I think it's worth checking out to see that. You might not like it. You might not like the rock opera aspect. You might not like, maybe the story moves too slowly, or maybe it's just not for you, or maybe the romance isn't for, I don't know. But I found it an interesting, just project. I think it is just really cool to see something like this made, and I am glad I saw it. I'm glad I was able to find time to watch it, and it's on Hulu. So there you go. Check it out if you are open-minded and want to try something different. It will not get nominated for any Oscars, one, because it didn't open in any theaters, but yeah, it's something different, and I think it was pretty cool what they did with it. So that's Odessa. Okay, then the main movie feature is Death of a Unicorn, and this was an interesting movie. I liked it. I didn't overly love it, but there's a lot that I like here. It's an A24 movie, and I always feel like their movies are a little different. And there's some cool things. But let's before we get into it, let's not that this is like the overall like the main thing, but we had 3 different movies that came out, and I obviously chose this one. The Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie is at a 55%. I liked it more than that. I feel like it should be a little better than that, but so 55% for that. But then Woman in the Yard is at a 41%. So as I record this, there's no popcorn meter for Unicorn yet. So again, Death of a Unicorn 55%. Woman in the Yard, 41%, but it has a 53% popcorn meter. So that one does have a popcorn meter. 41%, which is not good. What's the critics' consensus? They don't have one. Yeah, so 85 minutes, due at the Daily Beast, even at a brisk 85 minutes, it's a bigger slog than a day spent mowing the grass. Ouch. but Fangoria said the woman in the yard succeeds somewhat due to Deadweiler's sympathetic performance and Colette Serra's knack for sharp camera placement, evocative lighting, and occasional show-off camera moves. Okay. But then the other movie is A Working Man is 55%, same score as Death of a Unicorn. Popcorn meter off of 100 verified ratings, so this could change, 92%. So people watch it. And see, that is what matters. A Working Man may not be the best movie. It's probably not going to be a movie of the year or anything like that. But the Jason Statham movies are kind of fun. You know exactly what you're going to get. And they, so, we'll talk more about this later. So Death of a Unicorn. So Death of a Unicorn has Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega. There's some other, Will Powder. Who was he in? School of Comedy, Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of Dawn Treader. But it has Téa Leoni. At first, I'm like, who is this? Who is this? It took me a while to remember. Richard E. Grant. He was in this. So it's a weird movie because is it a black comedy? Is it a dark comedy? Is it a horror comedy? I don't even know what you'd call this. So basically, Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega is his daughter. They're on their way to this rich family's estate and this wildlife preserve, and Paul Rudd has the opportunity to become lock things in to be like their attorney and work for their company and just really establish themselves, and because he this is a good business opportunity because he wants to provide for his daughter and everything like that because the wife is she passed, so something happened. And so they're on their way there, and it's like as they're driving there, there's like no signal, and to keep going, and there's just things are a little tense between the two. They're a little estranged because so obviously Paul Rudd must be working a lot, and she's this like older teenage kid. I don't know if she's in college yet, and but as they're driving, Paul Rudd keeps trying to get on his phone because he's running late because there's issues with departing the plane. And his allergies, he's constantly sneezing and stuff like that. But then basically as they're driving, whoosh, they hit a unicorn, the little unicorn in the road. And, at first he's like, what is that or whatever? And the car swerves and stuff like that. And, he just like asks, his daughter, are you okay? Okay. And then they look and it's not dead yet. So then they go back and then they see it's a friggin' unicorn. There's like purple blood on it. And so that's Jenna Ortega's like, it's not dead. So what are you going to do? You can't leave it. So Paul Rudd goes back to the car and he gets a tire iron. And she's like, wait, I don't know if I'm spoiling too much. So basically what ends up happening is like, okay, she like touches the horn and then starts getting like these weird trippy visions like that. But then Paul Rudd, spoiler, uses the tire iron. And he sticks it in the back of the rental car. They drive to the place, start having meetings and stuff like that. And the family, it's all about money and there's different things and stuff like that. If you saw the trailer, what ends up happening is they find out about the unicorn, and it turns out they have these like people that come in and there's like some like crazy restorative processes, like miracle stuff that the unicorn parts, blood, whatever can do. So they want to exploit it. And Paul Rudd's like, he's just trying to lock things in and, secure things for his daughter. And she's like, wait. So this is the part that kind of bothered me is because, like the family, they got their kid, Will Poulter. He's a little annoying. And sometimes the characters, it's supposed to be a comedy, but then it's like borderline absurd, like some of their behavior and like things they say and do, and so it's like almost pulls me out a little bit. So I mean, there's a dead friggin' unicorn. So what? There's no sense of reality here, right? Maybe, but it's sometimes it's just like, what's going on? And then if you've seen like the one poster where there's like some you just see like a snout and savage teeth in front of like Jenna Ortega's face. So what ends up happening is like other unicorns are like, hey, where's this unicorn? Where's the body or whatever type of thing? And then that's where it gets dark and things get kind of gruesome. So it's a it's an interesting movie, and they kind of mix in a bunch of different things, and it's just kind of weird and all that. It's worth seeing just on the grounds of being, because it's an A24 movie. Again, it has that slightly different vibe to it, and it's well made and well acted. It doesn't always hit the mark. It's not a perfect execution. I'm sorry, unicorn, but it's kind of weird. Obviously critics didn't love it, but I feel like it's worth watching because it is something different. And, we need more different. We need something instead of having remake, sequel, and stuff like that. So I think it's worth checking out just to see the oddity of it and like where things go. And it's like there's some stuff like you don't really expect some of this stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say. I feel like I said a lot or whatever, but it's not a great movie, but it is. I feel like it's worth watching. So I'm glad I went with this movie. I almost forgot this movie was coming out because I think it's not being pushed as much because it's a smaller production or whatever. And but yeah, it's had a $50 million budget, and let's see, it's projected to gross 7 to 8 million from 2,800 theaters, and made 700,000 from Thursday night previews. So go see it. It sounds like now it's definitely gonna be Better Woman in the Yard. A Working Man, I don't know, but that's basically it. There's nothing more to say. You should. I mean, if you like Paul Rudd, he's not as in your face funny as he usually. Sometimes I feel like he's tries to be too funny, and Jenna Ortega. She's gonna. Sometimes I feel like Jenna Ortega's I feel like she's made to be she's super coolest, chillest person. But I enjoyed their they were both really good in it. So check out Death of a Unicorn. And thank you for checking out this show. That is going to be it for this podcast. Big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. And I'm, again, still doing this Fantastic Four run. Am I going to continue that? Maybe. I might do it a little more. Because I feel like I must be coming to the end of John Byrne. I'm trying to... And part of me, I know I've said this before, part of me, I was I don't want to know, oh no, there's only 2 episodes or 2 issues left, or there's only 20 issues left. And it's maybe I should look into that. Because if there's a big number, then maybe I should either look at something else for a while. But again, I'm open to suggestions if there's something you want to hear about. And I hope you're enjoying the Secret Podcast for those that are members. But if you can commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck and buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 2. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. Okay, so as I kind of been alluding to earlier, what is going to be next week? So next week's movie, next week we have the Minecraft movie, which I just don't think I can go see that movie. Let's see, we have The Friend, Eric LaRue, Freaky Tales, I don't even know what that is, Gazer, Hell of a Summer, Luckiest Man in America, A Nice Indian Boy, Psychotherapy, William Tell. I haven't heard of any of these. So what I was thinking, because I don't think I should see Minecraft movie. And again, if you want to see it, that's great. I just don't think I'm going to enjoy it. And I don't want to sit here and be because that's not fun. If you enjoy it, it's not fun for me to be negative. I don't want to be a negative Nancy. So what I was thinking after, I was well, what am I going to do? I was going to either do A Woman in the Yard or A Working Man. And the way it looks now, I should probably lean more towards A Working Man. So that may be the most likely. So yeah, because Woman in the Yard doesn't sound like it's going to do so well. And I am curious about the movie, but just and I mentioned this last week, the trailers never really fully entice me to I got to see this movie. So that's probably what it's going to be. And then as far as there's it's on the tip of my tongue. There's The Bondsman or something like that. This a Prime show with Kevin Bacon. It looks good, but Amazon's dropping all episodes at once. So I will try to check that out. I forget if it drops on Tuesday or Wednesday. So next week, as far as TV goes, there's sadly no more Severance. I'm going to have 2 episodes of Daredevil. I'll try to watch at least one Bondsman, and then I don't think it's next or this week. I think maybe it's the following week. Black Mirror starts up, so that'll keep us busy, right? I hope you are doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're doing fun things, and I hope you remember to be good to each other.